So I wanted to start off this year, the 2023 Holiday Hoopla, talking about last year's Hoopla, because last year was the first year that I did a Holiday Hoopla. And I just briefly already talked about the whole inspiration behind the Hoopla, which was giving you ideas to jumpstart for the making season. That's what it's all about. So, of course, I love to set up this muffin tin. And truth be told, you know, when I was prepping this, I emptied out probably 80% of my Halloween tray that I didn't get to. You know, I was like, oh man, I wanted to use the candy corn trees. Oh man, I wanted to use this, but that's okay because it was still, what I like about setting up a tray like this is it still looks good in the studio and it's still inspiring for the season. But I'm going to talk about this as we go through the Hoopla today, because there are some things that I want to demo as far as the Baubles again and Confections, the new Pinecones. We'll talk about Snowballs and the Salvaged stuff. But, you know, even if you don't have a muffin tin, my advice to start up any making season is to have the stuff out there, right? Out of sight, out of mind. So if you have all your stuff put away and tucked away, I'm not saying it needs to be in a pile or, you know, a clutter of chaos, but it does need to be in your sight, if you will, because if you have it in your line of sight, you're more likely to use it or do something with it. So these projects right here, this was last year's Hoopla, and this was really the first time, as I mentioned, I did a Hoopla, and I had a completely different agenda, I think, last year. Last year I was like, oh, project. So it was like sorted by brand, and I wanted to do projects for each brand. This year was a little different because I don't think it needs to be project-based. I think it needs to be ideas that will jumpstart your creativity. So the reason I wanted to start with this is to remind you that there is inspiration out there at your fingertips. The same way you were able to log on to watch this live, or if you're watching the replay, is the same way you can go to the YouTube channel and you can watch Hoopla from last year. You can go to timholtz.com and you can see all the inspiration from the makers from this entire year. You can go look at the Icicles release, Sampers Anonymous, Ranger Distress, Ideology. So if you're sitting there with your new whatever or your old whatever, you really should just go to timholtz.com and type in that search bar and see what's available to inspire you. I'll ask Mario if you can throw up a link to Hoopla from last year. And that, again, is going to take you to timholtz.com because it's broken down that way into what Hoopla is what. But we did a lot of fun things. We did this one. This was the watercolor bottle brush trees where we have the little bit of sparkle on there. You can see, there you go. And I'm happy to report that sticky embossing powder is back in stock. We'll talk about that in the Hoopla. We also did these. This was a fun one. This was using the vintage label die from Icicles, but I was showing how you can use the Glimmer hot foil system from Spellbinders to actually foil those dies. So the dies that are inkable are also dies that you can run through and foil. And it's not perfect because they're not foil plate dies, but they're certainly fun to add a little foil element, especially if you want to make gift tags. And then using, this is Darling Christmas from last year from Stampers Anonymous to make tags. So that's a great reminder. So maybe you didn't get to a lot of these. That's why I wanted to start with this, because maybe you didn't get to that last year and you're like, oh man, but you forgot about it. Like I forget about things, out of sight, out of mind. So you might be like, I'm going to make those this year. Or this one, this was one of my favorites, which was taking 3D embossing folders, and it could be a Icicles folder. It could be really any 3D embossing. I like 3D just because it's a little bit deeper, but we used the Mica crayons where you have that beautiful pearl shimmer, and we colored. So this one is on the black Distress heavy stock, or the black alcohol ink cardstock at the time. This is on craft heavy stock. So this was about coloring and then inking the folder. This was inked with picket fence, so it's white on black. This was inked with a little archival to give us that cool detail. But again, the tutorial is there to do this. And then for Ideology, we just had some collage fun, just doing some collage tiles on a mini clipboard, or throwing together a quick dome, maybe using a little foundry wax. So foundry wax on the Salvaged, or doing some trees, and then of course the mica flake. So I just wanted to just remind you of those, because you might have been like, oh yeah, I totally forgot about that, or I never really got to that. So of course you can start there. Start there, because chances are you bought it or you have this stuff from last year, so you can really get to making. I think that's the most important thing. All right, I'm going to get this out of the way. I'll set this off to the side just in case I need it back. Okay, another one that's a favorite was this. Now, this is an interesting one because I actually had to go look for it too. I found the sample and I'm like, when did I do that? How did I do that? Where did I do that? So one of my favorite things, of course, is always making little tree swatches. When we launched these bottle brush trees for Ideology years ago, I remember Mario did these cool yardsticks. He still has them, of like 3 different yardsticks of all the trees in so many different colors. And this was a great technique to create these blended, just kind of ombre trees where you're just getting the color to kind of fade. Very simple to use. The Ideology Woodland trees, a cup of water, your favorite colors of spray stain or mica stain, and dip it. And I was like, where was that tutorial? Because I thought it was in the Hoopla, but it wasn't. This was actually in Ideology. So Mario, if you can throw up the link to Ideology Christmas, I think it was Ideology Christmas, maybe last year, maybe, I don't know, maybe 2021, I don't know. But not only did I share this, but this one was another one that is such a favorite. Look at these tiny little tinsel trees. So cute, so fun, so easy to do. And this was another tutorial I shared, and this was using the tinsel twine. Now, before I put it in this Hoopla, I just want to remind you, this has been retired, but I did check, and many retailers have stock of this. What makes this so different is that it is wired. Okay, so this is a really thin tinsel, so much fluffier than a pipe cleaner, because a chenille stem, that's going to be too thin. But you need something wired. So if you just say, oh, well, I'll just go and get some tinsel garland that's on a string, it's not going to work because your trees won't stand up. They're just going to fall over because it's string. But this is actually a thin wire. And we talk about how you can cut this, quickly shape a tree with your scissors. It literally takes a minute, and then you alcohol ink it. But again, another idea that maybe you wanted to create a little rainbow of tinsel trees. You could put it on a little ruler, or maybe you just want to create little tinsel trees. And I've got some right over here. I know I do. Don't have the right size, but you can put it in a little glass dome, right? Do like an individual tree in a dome, and maybe you're going to do them as gifts or whatever. But again, an idea that exists, that's been there. It's just something that maybe you forgot about, or maybe you've never seen it. So I think it's one of the things. It's always like, I stocked up this year, I'm using it. Well, I mean, stocking up, really, there's 4 yards on here. There's a lot. So you really only need a pack. So even if you are gonna, like, I'm gonna stock up, Mario's like, you really need one. Is a lot of stuff. 4 yards, you need like an inch. You'll have a bazillion trees, unless you're doing this little forest, because these are cute. Sit down and make this. I mean, especially if you have someone, like maybe it's a gift for teachers or someone in the office or a friend. Like, this is a great, this whole thing is a great little gift. I just used a vintage folding ruler that you took apart, but you could do anything. Any little strip of wood.
Love them
anyway,
both together.
It's cute.
Different kinds. It's
yeah,
really sweet.
They're fun. So again, it's just an idea. But I'm going to demo the Woodlands. But I learned a new trick this year that I can't wait to share with you as well. So those are 2 things that I'm just wanted to remind you of that. But then we're gonna start playing. We'll start with the basics, something that you've probably seen a million times. But you know what? You're going to see it again because it's the Hoopla. And the Hoopla, I'm going to play how I want to play. And today, I want to play. Okay.
Because
so
it's your Hoopla.
It's my Hoopla. I'll ink if I want. Oh, no, I'm not going to sing. All right, here we go. So I'm going to use some alcohol inks. I'm just going to remove, not that it matters because mine is pretty. I like that mine is really stained. I've seen some that are really inked up out there, and I love that because that just means you guys are using it. But just for the sake of demo, if you're going to bring out alcohol inks and you have a glass media mat, it will stain this if that matters to you, but so just for the demo, I'm taking it out. But what we're going to do is we're going to start with Baubles, and I'm going to talk about Baubles. We'll talk a little bit about alcohol ink. This is what we're going to recreate. These right here. So I can hold up this little tin to share with you. I love making these every year because they make the perfect vintage mini mercury glass ornaments. If you're a vintage collector, they're very, very expensive when you buy like bags of them. I don't know what they think they are. They're diamonds, but they're really, to me, I much prefer making these. 1, they don't break when you drop them because they are made of plastic, but 2, they don't have any holes that you have to cover or any little ornament tops that you have to do. So we're going to start with doing the Baubles, and I love that because you can use them not only on a project, like maybe you're going to use them on a tree or something, but a great filler. So you can put them around a candle, you can put them in some glass containers, super simple. And the reason I say that is because Ideology Baubles only come out at Christmas. Okay, then they're not part of the everyday line. And Baubles, what they are, they're different than Bubbles. Let me see if I have a pack of Bubbles somewhere. Here we go. I'll get to Bubbles. It's another demo. These are what we do for Halloween. These are called Bubbles. They're both plastic, but these are clear. So we're going to make snowballs out of these for Christmas. These are pearls, and the pearl is very important for creating ornaments because we want that. Now, if you don't have Baubles, can you use regular pearl beads? Absolutely. They're just going to have a hole in it. If that doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. All right. But I love this because it's super simple to do. But here's something that I learned really after I did the Halloween Hoopla, which is funny. So if you recall on the Halloween Hoopla, we talked about alcohol inking rock candy. We're gonna do some stuff with rock candy as well. Thank you guys so much for your support of this limited edition bottle of rock candy. Ranger has stopped producing it, so it means they went through all the labels that they printed. I still think they might have a limited stock, and I know a lot of retailers have stock, but once it's sold out, it is gone. But I do appreciate just the support of the limited edition bottle. Rock candy is still part of the line, the glitter in the puck jar. But this limited edition, I'm just so grateful that you guys supported it. It is fun, and for those that have it, it is a beautiful, beautiful jar. But during the Halloween Hoopla, I was tinting it, and we were talking about my issue with wooden popsicle sticks. I don't like that, and I was using clear craft sticks. And then I put this stuff away because I have these cups that I was mixing the glitter in, and then I'm like, wait a minute, I have these. I didn't even think about it. I didn't even think about connecting the dots. So here's the thing. When it comes to mixing cups, especially if I'm mixing glitter, or we're going to use them also for the Baubles, that's why I'm even talking about this. Finding the perfect cup, ask Mario all the time. I'm like, a portion cup to me is okay in a pinch because you can get them, but they're very short and you can't really do stuff. If you buy the little plastic cups like a little paper cup or a Dixie cup, those are too narrow and too tall. So these mixing cups, these are actually resin mixing cups that Ranger has. But funny thing is, I have these in my line with Ranger as like resin mixing, like alcohol ink resin cups and spoons. I think Dina has them in her line for paint pouring. Same cup. But here's the thing. Ice resin, okay? This is a Ranger brand, but these I saw today on clearance on Ranger site, 20 pieces. So you get cups and sticks for $4. They were like half price. So I'm happy that I stocked up. I know I stocked up on them. And here's the reason. Not only do you get the cups, but look, plastic mixers. So
that's a big save for you.
Yeah, but they're like long regulation size. So to me, it was like a craft stick, but with a little paddle. So if I'm mixing glitter, it's much easier to mix glitter than a stick because it's flexible. So gosh, I don't know why I didn't even talk about that, but that's really where I'm using the cups and the sticks. So maybe Ranger's getting rid of this pack, but I know that they still have the Dina in mind, but these are cheaper than either one of the other ones I mentioned. So, but I know people like Simon Says Stamp, they probably have. Anyone that has cups, my point was, if you're looking for cups and sticks, you might want to go to the resin area because obviously that's their go-to use tool. Duh. I can't even believe I didn't think about that. But it was funny because I said to Mario, I'm like, where did I get these cups? He's like, I don't know. You know, you buy cups all the time, every time you see them. And he's right. I do. So, but the nice thing, yeah, you can just keep them and reuse them. So these are like my glitter cups for tinting glitter.
I gotta say, yesterday I saw you were stuck. You had to take a toothpick out of that snowball.
I did.
And you did really good. I watched you.
I did.
Oh, I could. But you were like.
Yeah,
struggling.
we're going to be doing snowballs, and I will be using a toothpick, and yes, I have issues with those too. All right.
Maybe when it's not around food, you do better.
Denied. I don't.
No, not great. Just better.
Yeah, better. Yeah, maybe a little better. All right, so we're going to talk about inking the Baubles. Let me just make sure this is in frame, which it isn't. There we go. Now it is. Okay, so this is using alcohol inks to tint. Now, the reason you want to use alcohol ink because this is a solvent ink. And solvent inks dry on non-porous surfaces like plastic, metal, and glass. You cannot use your re-inkers for this. Your distressed re-inkers, archival re-inkers. Re-inkers will never dry on plastic, but alcohol inks will. Okay? Use whatever colors you want, but one very important color, if you want to create this vintage wonderment, is going to be mushroom. Now, You can get mushroom in the small bottle. You can see I still keep mine because it has the smallest little drop in there that just spins around. That makes it look full on camera, but it's an empty bottle. But you can also get certain colors in the alcohol ink line in 2 ounce. If you are somebody that uses a lot of mushroom, that's my advice. You know, I don't use all the other colors in 2 ounce, to be honest. I'm perfectly happy with the smaller bottle. It's just easier, but I'm very happy that mushroom exists in the big one because I use it a lot for vintage stuff. Then I like to have a mini mister with isopropyl alcohol, 91% or higher. Do not put blending solution in here, just isopropyl. You never want to spray blending solution because of its resin components, but isopropyl is totally fine, okay? So we'll start with how we color the baubles. The colors that you use are completely up to you. Just think about your palette. And I've done this so many seasons. I've made pastel ones for spring and Easter. I've done Halloween baubles. I mean, you really can do any colors that you want. Just pick something that inspires you, okay? That's completely open. There's a question, can you drill? I would imagine you could because they're plastic, but if you were gonna drill a hole through it, you may want to just get a bead, but maybe you want to drill a hole in the top and put a little screw eye. They're plastic, so I don't see why you couldn't drill through it. Maybe with a Dremel or something. So, yeah, Mario, I do love to buy cups. Okay, and then I'm going to want a paper towel. So here's what we're going to do. These little guys, there's all different sizes, and that's what I love about baubles. I love the fact that they're all different sizes. I also love their color. Let's be honest, they're beautiful. And you just want to put some in a cup. Now, how many do you put in a cup? Well, you just want room for things to move around, and it depends on how you want to use it. When I do glitter, most of the time I like to mix with a stick. Sometimes if I'm doing baubles, I can stack these and shake them. But since I realized I had all these cups, this is where this piece of wax paper, deli paper comes in, because I'm just going to use that as a lid just to shake, okay? So you could use anything. Maybe you want to just use another plastic lid. But here's what you have to keep in mind. Whatever you use as a lid needs to be for that particular color, meaning let's just say you had one piece of plastic and you're like, oh, I'm going to use it for red and I'm going to use it for yellow. If you don't clean it off in between, the ink that you put in here will reactivate whatever ink is on the top. So that's why I prefer to use something disposable like deli paper. I can still fold it a few different times before I have to trash it. Okay, so let's do, well, I'm not going to do patina. I'll do a mix. And you can mix your colors as well, so it doesn't really matter what colors you want to work with. So this is just going to be Pool. It's a really pretty kind of turquoisey color. I'm just going to squirt some alcohol ink in there. So not drips, but also not filling the cup. Just squirt it in. Place that on the top and just kind of like spin, right? You're like spinning and shaking, but look how quick it is. I mean, it's instant. It's instant gratification right there. That's the ink that I'm talking about that would get on the lid. So there's your color. That's it. It's done. Beautiful. Now, they need to dry, and I would recommend pouring them out, but I'm not done yet because I want to do something to this color. If you like these as they are, that perfect clean color, you are done. You would dump them out. But I want to create more of that vintage vibe. So what I want to do first is I want these to just, see how that resin in the ink makes them kind of stick together? Okay? They're not really stuck. It's just a little bit of that resin. I want them to kind of just aerate a little bit. So I'm just going to shake it back and forth just so the ink is not still wet, but it doesn't have to be completely dry. And don't worry about the resin sticking. They won't stay sticky. Once they're dry completely, they're not sticky at all. They're perfectly smooth and pristine, but we're still in the inking phase. Here's where mushroom comes in. Mushroom is just this interesting color. We call it a magic color because it's not brown and it's not gray and it's not black. It's a little bit of everything. It's just a magical dirt color. And so what I want to do first is just do this one. I do a couple of little shakety shakes because you can always add more, but there's no takesies backsies. Okay. Then I'm just going this one I'm going to shake. The reason I want to shake is because I want it to be more, see how it's kind of like splotchy? That's really what I'm going for. It is so much fun. It's really, really good. You can color the bells. You can color anything in this tray with alcohol ink. Absolutely. Look at what it's doing already. Look at that. Oh, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Kelly asked, you need to shake the alcohol ink. No, I didn't shake any of these because it's ink. The only ones you need to shake are the alloys, mixatives, foundry wax, anything with a pigment. But dyes, you never need to shake a dye. You shouldn't need to shake a dye because it's just a fluid colorant. If you need to shake a dye, then chances are there's probably pigment in there. So you don't need to shake the alcohol inks. All right, so there's our color. I'm perfectly happy with that. So when I'm happy with the results, that's where the paper towel comes into play. I'm just going to take the cup, flip it over, give it a little tap to make sure nothing is stuck to the bottom of the cup, and let these dry. Drying time on these really is seconds. It is seconds. The reason I do a paper towel, I think these little quilted things keep everything from rolling around, okay? But also, I like the fact that it just dries quicker. If I use deli paper, these roll right off because it doesn't have, even this tiny little quilted texture is enough to actually hold these. It's really crazy, especially on the glass mat. Okay, now you can be done with this. If you want to be done, be done. I'll show you what it looks like now because it is done, but like, look at that. See just those little, they're like age spots. And sometimes it's heavier, sometimes it's light. I love that. But I like mine to even be a little bit more aged, so I'm going to take a mini mister. Now this one, we're going to keep our distance. So I might even be off camera, but just know I have mine colored on the top with a red Sharpie, so I know this one contains alcohol because I use it for, well, you could use it for cleaning or anything. But on the mister, I want to spray in the air and just let the little droplets fall. I don't want to spray directly because the alcohol will also remove this color, okay? So if I went really quick and like just blasted it, it would remove the color. So all I want to do here is just, I don't know if you can even hear that. It's just tiny little pss, pss. Took a second. I'll show you what it's doing. I'm just going to dry it. Also takes a second because that alcohol evaporates like zippity-doo. But here's what we have now. I don't know if you're going to even notice the difference on camera, but now it even revealed some of that pearl color. So you know how an ornament, especially mercury glass, sometimes that color will kind of rub off and go down to the silver. Even though these aren't silver, it brings out a little bit of that pearl, that base pearl. Not a lot, but just enough. There you go. That one you can see better. It's just tiny little dots, and I only mist it on whatever's facing. Like I don't roll them and mist all the sides because when an ornament is worn, it's worn. Yes, it is 91% alcohol, isopropyl, 91 or higher. So that's it. That's the easy part of creating these baubles, and the inks. The ink is totally dry, it's vintage, and as I mentioned, you could stop at any point along the way, okay? So can you do this on glass? Yes, as I mentioned, alcohol ink works on anything non-porous. You can do it on the inside of the glass, the outside of the glass. You can do it on pearl beads, on plastic, all sorts of different elements. But the benefit of these is that they are like perfect different sized ornaments, including some big ones. And it couldn't be easier. It's really simple. So this cup I would save for anything blue that I ink in the future, be that bells or anything else. This is what I was saying on the cup, that when I go to use the next color, I'll just fold it over and use this side, and then I'll use this side and fold it over and use this side. Because if I use the same blue, and let's say I was just doing pink, if the pink hits this, it's not going to contaminate it immediately, but it will re-wet whatever's on here. Okay? Really, really cool. It's a simple, simple thing to do. I'm even going to throw a few. Let me throw a few in here because I can. There we go. All right. Yeah, once you start doing this, I mean, I talk about compartmental making. I love to have these already made up so you can make them and mix them. Like, I think they look beautiful mixed, but you can also have them sorted. So let me just show you something real quick before we move on. What I also really like is, let's see. Where did I put it? I threw it over here. I'll find it. There we go. Right here. Okay. Take a look at this. And I know that right now, Paula, besides it's just a little butter pat. It's that color where she's like, this is just mushroom. Okay. So these are baubles, and these are baubles with just mushroom. So I did the same thing. I did mushroom, shook it up, let it dry, did a little spritz of 91% ISO when they were drying, but I love the fact that it creates the perfect vintage pearls that you can use year round. I see that, Paula. Please send to your house. They're beautiful. So when you think baubles are just ornaments, that is not true at all. Whenever you need things for any of your vintage makes, maybe you're putting stuff in little bottles, or maybe you're gluing them. I know one year Emma did a project that was like New Year's, and she used these as like pearl balloons, and she did them in soft pinks and blues. they're really very cool to do. And this is just, again, mushroom because it is the perfect vintage. You can see what I mean. It almost looks like mercury glass. Just, you know, when you see like mercury glass candle holders, so you can go to the dollar store and you can get little votives and do that. But what's making this so magical, and I want to point that out, is the fact that the surface is pearl. If the surface wasn't pearl, it would still ink it, but it would not give it this luminous, almost metallic-like look. So I want you to be really mindful of that if you're looking, if you're like, oh, he said I can get a candle holder, whatever. It needs to start out with some type of pearly finish in order to achieve this effect. It doesn't mean you can't alcohol ink it, but it's just going to be more tinted, well, like we did with these. So these are bubbles. Okay, these are bubbles with a little, I think this is mushroom and moss, but you see how they'll change depending on what you put them in. So if the light's through it, it's going to look kind of like Coke glass, but if it's on something else, then it's just going to become darker. That's really the benefit. So what would you use for a silver look? You would use silver, you can use silver alloy or mixative. Those, of course, you could use exactly the same way. You can use mushroom, but those are the silver alcohol inks. And those, of course, you would need to shake because they have a pigment in them. So there you go. That's how simple it is to tint. I figured I'd start off with a classic, but to me, every time I see it, it never gets old because maybe you're going to remember like, oh, okay, I ink first, let it dry a little bit, a couple little shakes of mushroom, and you could go back and add more, and then maybe you do or maybe you don't like the step with the isopropyl. But to me, I think that's what even creates kind of that veining where it just moves that ink ever so slightly. Beautiful. All right, I'm going to set that off to the side. Paula said, ship that to her, so. Mario's like, yeah, no problem. All right, okay. So far, so good. See, starting off with just the ideas. And this is what the hoopla is all about, to remind you of like, oh my gosh, I haven't done that. I need to do that. Yep, that's very important. Okay, so next up, let's talk real quick about...
Hey, yeah, let's talk about it.
What? Just mock. Okay. Let's talk about coloring the glitter. Because the rock candy glitter, having a big jar, I will say that I've glittered all things. And if you caught that fun reel for Halloween, we did those skellies and all those colors. Super, super fun. So I'm not going to go through and do this again because we've already done it. If you missed it, check out the Halloween hoopla. You'll see how we color the glitter. But it's essentially very similar to what we did with the baubles just now, and you can also do that on mica flakes. The cool thing about this is what I love is these are in distress storage jars. I'm just gonna, there we go, just looking at camera. Oh, there we go. That fits a nice little rainbow. I do love having all these colors. It was really great to do all of that fun element with the skellies, but of course we wanted to do it for Christmas. The thing to know about this glitter, so I want to be clear because I have the chance in this hoopla to talk about it. This is the rock candy glitter that I refer to that says it's part of the everyday line, and it is. This is how rock candy is sold in the everyday line. It's been in the line for 10 years. This is the jar that it's currently sold in, and it will continue to be sold in this jar. The significance of this, it's the same glitter. It was just the cool packaging and the fact that you get a ton more glitter at a great value. And so that's what I was saying. You can glitter all things. Okay, that's what I love. So another thing to note when it comes to glittering and coloring and doing all of that is that there's other elements that you can add alcohol ink to and tint. It doesn't just have to be rock candy. So that's important for people to know. If you have regular glitter, can you alcohol ink it? Absolutely, give it a shot. I will say that not all glitter is alcohol ink friendly. Some glitter that's really thin and flimsy gets very clumpy, but try with what you have. But one thing to keep in mind are mica flakes, and we're going to do a couple things with mica flakes in the hoopla today because I use mica flakes mostly around the holidays. I don't necessarily use mica flakes every day in my daily making, but this is how mica flakes are sold. It's not a surprise launch with a big jar of mica flakes. I tried that one, but it didn't play out. But I do love, I love mica flakes. This is synthetic mica. The cool thing about synthetic mica is it just has a whole different vibe. It's just beautiful little flakes that looks like flakes of ice. It's going to be very snowy. Like Mario mentioned, we're going to do some cool snowballs with it. But you can also tint mica flakes. This is a really great way to do vintage inspired shakety shake cards. So, you know, you can buy sequins and beads and all of those things, but I love the fact that if you wanted to do a shakety shake, you can do mica flakes on their own, you can do mica and glitter and have something color match in your shaker card. It's just the fact that these flakes are just larger, and we can tint mica flakes exactly the same way. So that's what that's going to be my tinting for this one is tinting some mica flakes. So let's see what color. I think that's why I'll do patina. Actually, I'm not. I'm going to do this one is really low because I love lettuce on this. Okay. So this is going to be done the same way we did the glitter. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to pour some in. So all I'm doing is just pouring some. How much? As much as you want. Okay. Just give yourself some room to mix. That's going to be, I want to make sure it's going to fit in my jar as well because I still have some of that green in there. All right. Then we'll take some alcohol ink. And this is exactly how we did the glitter, exactly how we did the baubles. You're just going to squirt some alcohol ink in there. Love that I have this little spoon. And this one, we're going to stir. This we're going to mix. And this is what I was saying about having that like flat paddle. It was really nice because it allows me to kind of smush and move this stuff around. Okay. You want something with a little bit of a high wall because you need to stir it. You need to mix it. Now these do have little measuring lines on the inside. So if you find that your spoon is kind of catching it, I just try to stick to the inside because if you do the outside, sometimes see it can pop up some of the mica flakes. But this is what we have so far. Now, what I love about doing this with mica flakes, see this? See how you can get some flakes to be really dark and some flakes to be really light? Because we're kind of trying to ink a flat surface versus a little particle, this usually takes a couple of layers, if you will. But I often stop on the first layer, maybe with like mushroom, because then it gets really splotchy and cool looking. So just mixing that up, mix, and you just mix until you feel that it's coated. See, you like the, look at that, beautiful. Super, super simple. And then you're just gonna pour it out onto a paper towel, let it air dry, because if you leave it to dry in the cup, the resin is going to make these flakes stick together because alcohol ink does contain a resin. And then you just have to break it up by hand. Not a big deal if you did that, but before you put it in the jar, you would just need to smash it with your fingers. But when you're done inking, just take a paper towel, place that out. See, now I have the cup and the spoon for green, and I can do mica or glitter in the same cup. It didn't really matter. And then I just kind of spread it around. I mean, it's already dry. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? It's like a peridot color. So, so pretty. So good. There we are. Perfect, perfect. Okay. Just saw Tim made his own plastic spoon. Those aren't my plastic spoons, but that'd be nice. There you go. Beautiful color. All right, let me hand this over to Mario real quick. Sure. Just want to set that on the table. Yep. Thanks. So that's how easy it is to do mica flakes. So you can see that in my color combos, I've got a lot of glitter and just one little tin of mica, because there again, I just use select colors. You know, I love purple and green and orange for Halloween. You can do candy corn, this, and white. But then for Christmas, I've got different shades of blue, but I do like some black. And this one happens to be slate alcohol ink, and it has this one looks really pretty because this looks like silver. It's just gray alcohol ink, but see how it just makes it look super silvery? Crazy, right? Okay, beautiful, beautiful. So what can you do with color stuff, color things? Well, there's a lot of things that you can do with color things, but what I wanted to share with you is what we did with our color glitters, like we did the Skellies. And that Skelly, that was fun. That was my first reel. So thanks, Stacy, for giving me a little nudge. I'm like, how'd you do it? She goes, just easy. You take a video and you post it. Okay. So what we created, and for Christmas, wanted to use these two colors of glitter. Look at this red. Ooh, that's beautiful. I think that's crimson, and I'm not sure which green this is. I don't know what it is. Well, it is. It's because it's a really dark green, but I don't know in the alcohol. I know it's not bottle. If I heard the name out, it would come to me. Anyway, here's what we did. Take a look at these. And this was inspired by Walmart, right? If you've been there, you saw that these giant flocked Santas and toy soldiers this year. Okay, so in ideology, we have these things called salvaged figures. We have salvaged Santa, salvaged snowman. Now we have a salvaged toy soldier. We also have the salvaged deer. And these are done out of a plastic resin, okay? Typically, these are the small ones. So this is one that I did last year with foundry wax. You can paint them, you can glitter them, you can do all things with these. They're so much fun to create. But this year we did these bigger ones. Okay, so we did these in big and small, so they come in a 3-pack now. This is the large size. And they're just great because they were inspired by vintage ornaments. So if you don't want to paint them or you don't want to do foundry wax with them, glittering, super simple, because take a look at these. Look at how fun they are. Just,
so cool.
Just glitter, just sparkly. This one just has just white rock candy. And I love the idea of glittering these. Now I just glued these onto, again, a folding ruler, but you can do whatever you want. You can put them in a centerpiece or all sorts of different things. There's a question Tammy asked, do you sell these jars? Yes, these are storage jars, distressed storage jars. So you can get those from Ranger. That's where we put the glitter and the mica in. So here's how we did this, trying to balance the questions too. All right. So this one, and you can do this really with any kind of paint. I want to talk about that. You don't have to use distress paint. I'm just sharing what we use, but really use whatever paint you want to use. You can use spray paint, you can use regular acrylic craft paint, doesn't matter. But what you want to do is base coat or paint your object in whatever color paint you're going to glitter. Again, we talked about this, we shared for the skeleton. So whatever it is, so we knew we were going to do red glitter. So I found a coordinating red paint close enough. Okay, it just needs to be the nearest ish, and you're going to paint it and you're going to let it dry. So if this was spray paint, spray paint it. If this was acrylic paint, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be exactly the same color, but you want to base coat it. The reason is because when you go to glitter, the glitter is still particles. It's still going to have gaps in it. And if you don't paint it first, you're going to see wherever it misses glitter, and it's going to look pretty bad. Okay. Once it's painted, you can paint it 1-2 coats. It doesn't really matter, whichever, whatever color depth you want to give it. Let it dry. Then for the adhesive, and this is debatable, but this is what I use, so you do you. I use Distress Resist Spray, and I paint it on. So after the paint is dry, I pour this into a cup. You could spray it, but you're going to waste a lot of spray doing it. But you're just going to pour some in a cup, get a brush, and after this is painted, you're going to completely drench it in resist spray. But just painting it on is going to be fine. And then while the resist spray it's that kind of cloudy, milky look, you're just going to douse this in glitter. So I have a little tray that I work in. I cover it, I flip it over. It doesn't matter that you get resist spray on your fingers. Cover it with glitter and let it dry. Once it dries, it normally takes about, I'd say, 30 minutes to dry totally set. I just take it, go back over that tray, roll these in your hands, just like if this was a dried glittered Santa, I just do this, because all that's going to do is get rid of any glitter that didn't grab onto the resist spray. The other reason I like resist spray is because of its fluid viscosity. It seems to kind of absorb the glitter better and has better grip. If you use something like Collage Medium or Glossy Accents, which again, if you go back to the video when the Halloween Hoopla, I talked about all the adhesives. Use whatever adhesive you want. Can you use Mod Podge? Yes. Can you use Collage Medium? Yes. Glossy Accents? Yes. But those are all thicker. So when you paint a thick glue over something with detail, it's going to fill in your detail. And so then when you glitter it, it just makes it look more like a Chia Pet. It's really thick. If that's your jam, go for it. But that's the reason I specifically wanted to use resist spray. And that's all I have left. I have nothing. I'm waiting for my Ranger order to come next week. But it's really important because I still wanted to be able to see the detail in his face? It's still there. And the detail of those elements, it's still there because it wasn't filled with a thick glue. If you fill it with a thick glue, that's on you. But the reason I want to roll it is because not all the particles can get into that resist spray, and I don't want to waste the glitter. I just roll it in my hands, the excess falls down, and then it's done. But doesn't that look cool? Like diamonds. So these could be beautiful. This could go on a centerpiece just as a display. Whatever you wanted to create, you can create. I agree. Kathy said, happy hoopla. Happy hoopla to you. Look at that. Isn't that just fun? So paint and glitter. And I think it's important because maybe you got the bug and you're like, I've colored a bazillion things of glitter. Now what do I glitter? Really, you can glitter anything. But the tip on this is paint it first and use this as your glue because it'll show the detail better. It doesn't mean I always use it as a glue, and I talked about that in the Halloween one, depending on what I want to glitter. Pretty fun though. I absolutely love that. So there we go. Someone asked, Mario's pointing out, can I use a paintbrush in the resist bottle? Sure, you could. Yeah. I just poured in a cup because I don't want to. Well, I don't want to contaminate. I don't want to contaminate that. So beautiful. Anyway, I'm just going to set this. I have actually setting off camera just because I want to look at it because it makes me smile. I love how the light catches it, and I did see the flocked ones, and I'm like, I'm not really into the flock look, but I sure am into the sparkle. That's fun. And you could paint it as well. Like you could have one. You know, these are painted with same with distress paint with a tiny little brush. I'm gonna do that on some charms today. And then after it's dry, it's got clear rock candy. So instead of using the tinted glitters over it, it's just using rock candy as the glue. And this one, this was a little bit of glossy accents. So you could do glossy accents, but glossy accents, you have to just work really, really fast. It dries super, super fast. So there you go. Yeah, I always, if I'm using a medium, I always just like to pour some of it out because double dipping into a jar of something, you could risk contaminating. Not that it will. All right. There we go. Gosh, I'm so happy I have colors of glitter and mica at the ready just for the season, just to go and do your thing. Good fun, isn't it? Good fun. Yeah. Hope Ranger has enough of those. There we go. So they're cool. It's a good deal. When I saw it, I was like, whoop, whoop. That's good. Okay. Let's talk. Let's see what I want to do. I'm going to talk trees next, and then I'll get into painting. I just like to jump around. It's a hoopla, after all. It's fun. Okay. There's no lie that I love trees. I love trees. I love bottle brush trees. I love the fact that natural trees, we can do all sorts of different colors and do fun different elements. As I mentioned, if you're going to do different colors of trees, you can certainly do that whole rainbow tree vibe, which again I did last year. But throughout the holidays, I'll just take something that's visually pleasing to me. I always say surround yourself with things that inspire. So if you have a box or a basket or whatever you like, just fill your trees, and you can have a kind of a tree workshop. You can have some trees that you haven't colored yet and some that you've colored. When I do trees, I kind of do all sorts of things. Sometimes I'll use spray stain, sometimes I'll use mica stain, sometimes I'll use oxide spray. I'll use any kind of spray ink to do this because you get different effects. Sometimes I leave the bases on, sometimes I take the base off. Why? Well, because I was gonna probably put it in something and change my mind. So that's really why. But you can see that different colors will do different things. Look at this tree. This is a tree in an Ideology barrel. Look at it with the mica flakes. That's beautiful. This one is a little bit of mica and glitter, just a different color. So mica gives you a very snowy tree compared to just glitter, but you can certainly use glitter. So this one's just glitter, and this is glitter and mica. So see, it's just a little bit more snowy. But yeah, I do a lot of different colors. I love these. This one is oxide. So see how oxide is very like creamy, dreamy. So these are all made out of a natural material. We're going to do some inking on this. Now in Ideology, we have different sizes. We have large tree lot, we have small. I hope most of these come back next year. I'm not sure if all the SKUs will come back, probably at least a couple of them. Our alpine trees, this is a new one this year, which is just a taller tree. And I love the tall skinniness of an alpine, a little different than that. But these are all made out of a natural material, which is really ink friendly. That's why we do it. So what do I do with trees? Well, I like to put them in things. And you know me, I'm a junker at heart, and I've shown these every year, but these are displayed around the house. You can really use anything you want to display trees. So this one is a little truck that I put some mini trees in the back. If you find some old cars, look at this. Look at that wagon. Really fun just to take that tree. And all I did on this one is while it was wet, I actually wrapped it in jute for it to dry. So after it was done inking, I wrapped it so it stayed that way because, you know, the bottle brush trees want to fluff back up. But if you wrap it while it was wet, it dried that way, and I just hot glued it onto that. This one, same thing. they're just fun. They're a great way to add just a cool display. We talked about like sticks or twigs. I got these. You can go out and really cut down branches and cut your own twigs and sticks, but you know, Stacy inspired so many of us with sticks, but I got these at Hobby Lobby because it's a whole bag of sticks and nobody has to cut it and I don't have to cut them, but I just added some wire and put those in a truck, okay? There's so many cool things that you can do with your craft objects that make them decor. Now this could be decor, but this could also be something that you could use as gifts. Maybe you want to sell them. I don't know. A lot of people do a lot of different things with elements. But if you're a collector, I just wanted to give you some suggestions. My suggestion, if you like these, is to shop around. Go to swap meets, go to flea markets, go to antique stores. You could certainly shop on eBay, Etsy, whatever you want, and get a collection. So I have quite the collection. I have a little wood slice in there. I have a collection of I have large, here's a giant truck. So maybe I'll put bigger trees, and I don't care if it's got a wheel missing, because if I'm going to display it, that side is going to be totally perfect, right? Just look for things that you could add. Look at this wagon. Isn't that fab? That's so good.
That is a cool wagon.
It's a good wagon. I think I got this one as like a little duo. I think there's a blue one as well. But there's all different sizes. Look for trucks that maybe have a little bed in the back. See, again, flat tire. And when you find these, to the person, they have no value because like missing a tire, missing this. I'm like, bonus, don't care. But this would be great with trees or sticks or snowballs. Here's another station wagon. I think those are fun. You can do little Volkswagen. So you just type in vintage toy car and just look for it. But even something like this, you could still add a tree on the back. I mean, how fun would that be? Let's see. Let me look in my box of trees. See if there we go. So it could be like something like that. Perfect. You can add some ornaments. You can add some tiny lights. You could even do a bigger tree if you wanted a bigger tree. I mean, there's so many things, but if you're not into vintage or if your budget doesn't allow vintage, I found something this year that I thought was a really good alternative to this. And that was, well, you know it, I went to the dollar store. So at the dollar store, now I'm not a huge fan of this thing. Could there be some elements to it? Yeah, okay, but I noticed that it was just wired on. So if you untwist that, you could take it off and you could probably trim this up, or you can maybe use your own die cuts or whatever, but take a look at this. It is metal, a great little metal sleigh. I like that it was just dry brush and silver. It is an ornament, but how perfect is this to take some trees and you could do a whole little, a couple stacks of trees, or maybe you want to do some trees and you want to put in a little Salvaged Santa in there. But it's a great way that you can take some ideology elements and create ornaments or gifts. So like I said, if you didn't want to go and do the whole vintage thing, head to the dollar store. I think these were like $1.25, and you can still add an element. You could still keep this. I mean, I think the pine part is good. I just think that whole plastic explosion, not too good, but there's ways to work around it. You can do some ribbon through the holes already. You can do tiny bells, but I think it's a great tip of looking around for things as a vessel. And that's what I try to remind people of, even during the Halloween hoopla, that when you're shopping, look for options of what you can use with the stuff that you have. Because I've seen a lot of people, you make tiny packages out of wood blocks and your favorite scrapbook paper. Imagine this piled high with presents, right? Or maybe, even a big tree would still fit in here. It's a little big in my opinion, but hey, you do you. But I think with the new alpine trees, the fact that they're a little skinnier, see that seems to work. And could you fit a big salvage? I think you could. He's the show, but you could certainly do that. Or maybe you want to do the toy soldier or candy. My point is, look around, and really for $1.25, this is a great structure. I think that's super important to me, to find structures, to find elements. Okay. So on to the trees, okay? I was inspired by one of the makers, Vicki Evans. She did something on one of her makes that I couldn't figure out. when I saw it, and I even had to message her. I'm like, I really don't get it. I mean, I've done trees for years. I can't wrap my head around how you got a look that you got. Let me set this over here. And she shared it. She also shared it on her blog, but her blog is more ingredient photo based. So I wanted to share how I did it. But a shout out to Vicky for this idea, because I think the idea is really brilliant. So typically, when you ink a bottle brush tree, it's designed to absorb its color, which is exactly the purpose of that. So this is just started out as a plain tree, add a little ink. It could be any kind, like I said, any kind of spray inks that you want to add, and you've got your color. But Vicky did a tree that resembled this. Now hers was in, darker shades and brown. I'm like, I can't wrap my head around this. There's color in there, but how did you get the tips? Is there glitter? She's like, nope. I'm like, I don't understand. Here's how she did it. It's so incredibly cool and so simple, but it's like, dang, that's really good. Would you have my splat box at the bottom, please? Sure. Thanks. Okay, so we're gonna start with a tree, and I'll use I'll do an alpine because but it could really be any of the trees. Thanks, Mario.
You're welcome.
And what you're going to need are some types of sprays. Now, again, it could be spray stain, it could be an oxide spray, it could be whatever it is that you want to use. I would prefer an ink for this one, but it could also be mica. I don't normally use my mica stains on trees because I don't think you get the shimmer. But if that's the only spray ink you have, fine. But I just don't waste the spray inks on trees if they're mica. You're also going to need a color of paint for the tips. Now, depending on what you're doing, I'm actually going to do a couple because I really wanted to create. I'm going to do one that's kind of blue and wintry. So I've got ice spruce and weathered wood as my ink color. And my paint is going to be ice spruce. And for the green tree, I think this one I'm going to do probably a little evergreen bough. So for that, I'll do some bundled sage. Now it could be a lighter color, if you wanted a lighter blue, but I'm going to do blue and this will be a little bit more green. I may throw in some bundled sage ink spray. I'm not quite sure. Okay. To get all of this to work, the idea is what she did is she created a resist on the tips. That was the part that it was like, it hurt my head to even understand how that works, because if you've tried to add a color to the end, I know Tammy B has done a whole tutorial of like when you want to add snow to a tree, things that you can use to keep the color from bleeding through. This tip was like absolutely brilliant. And of course it starts with some resist spray. You can see why I'm out. Resist spray this year, I guess, has become like, I don't know, just used it for more things than I ever did before. So here's how she shared it, and I hope I do the tutorial justice. Okay, so just going to start with paper towel. I'm going to take the trees that I want to color. We're going to do, like I said, we'll do two of them. We'll do both of them. I'm going to do both alpines because they're here and they're neat. I like them. Resist spray is just a little bit of resist spray, okay? The resist spray is not about soaking the tree. It's just about thinking of getting like a little bit of resist on the outside. You can't see it, so you kind of get what you get and you don't throw a fit. So I'm going to prime mine first because I always have a clean sprayer, so I want to do that first spray that's usually a little bit of leftover water, okay? Then I'm just going to spray, give it a turn, spray, give it a turn, spray, give it a turn, spray, give it a turn. Okay, that's it. So I just kind of did a little bit on the outside of the tree. There we go. Okay, now this, same thing, I'm gonna clean this sprayer just because, well, I'm going to need to. So I'm just going to put that in water. I've got water off to the side, and I'm just going to spray water through it just to flush it out. There we go. Done. So I've already like sprayed water through it, so now this is empty, and then I'm going to replace it. If I was using more resist spray for other things, I don't have to clean it immediately, but you need to clean it within, I'd say, 15 minutes or so of using it to keep that sprayer from clogging up. If you have your sprayers clogging up, my advice is to just get replacement sprayers. You could try to clean them, but it's a bit of a hassle. Okay, so there's a little bit of resist spray on the outside. Didn't see much, okay? It is what it is, but it's there, okay? Now, drying time, it's probably only going to be a minute or so. So if you don't have a heat tool, go ahead and just wait it out. But if you have a heat tool, it's not going to hurt just to give a quick little blast over the top of it, literally seconds, to make sure that that is done. Next is the messiest part of this. Not messy in a sense of your fingers, but messy in a sense of you need to be aware of how you're applying it. And that's why I have the splat box here, okay? So for this, we need to apply paint. You can see this wall right here. That's what I wanted to point out. We're gonna apply the paint to the bristles of the tree. So now, instead of my splat box laying down, I need to have like a splash wall, if you will. Does that make sense? So that's why I've got my wall up here. That's what I love about the splat box is I can have a high and a low point. Then what we're going to do is take our paints. Just going to give them a quick shakety shake. There we go. I'll take a little bit of this. There we are. Don't need much for one tree. So there's a little drip of that. And here we go. A little bit of that. So again, whatever paints you have, ice spruce, bundled sage, they're really pale, almost washed out. They're very similar to white paint, but I just didn't want to do white, but you could. Then what you're going to do is just going to take some paint on your fingers and you're going to apply it to the bottle brush tree with your finger, because all we're trying to do is put it on the tips. But the resist spray has actually made the bristles a little stiffer. And maybe that's why she used it, because, you know, these trees are pretty soft and fluffy. So my guess is that, you know, maybe this not only helped resist, but also made it pretty rigid. But because we're brushing it, you get these little splatters everywhere. So this is something you don't want to do close to your face, especially if you're wearing glasses, because you have little paint flecks all of a sudden. So that's why I just have this down here. And I don't know, there you go. You can see as the light hits it, you're just putting little bits of paint all around the tree. And you do this all the way around, whatever color it is that you want to use. There we go. Just take a look, because you can see when you turn it. See that? Like corn on the cob. You can see. There we go. A little bit there. And a little bit there. So I don't want this really gunky, but I would imagine that you could probably paint a lot if you wanted it to be a lot. But all you do is see if when you tip it in the light, you can see that you have a spot like this. To me, doesn't look like there's much paint. So I'm just going to go in and add a little bit of paint. I think the paint and the resist spray is going to give a whole little mix. Okay, so just going to dip my finger in water, clean that up. Paint comes right off, and we'll move on to the next color. So this one, just going to clean right off the glass. Super simple. That's why I like to work on a glass. And let's do this one. Do a little bit of our ice spruce. So same thing, same rules apply. And it doesn't really matter, you know, what direction, I suppose. I guess you'd probably figure it out as a maker, which one is, you know, maybe not making that much of a mess. But I thought the effect was very, very cool to create this. Now, could you roll this in the paint? I'm sure you could. I'm sure you could probably, you know, spread this out and just maybe roll the tree through. I'm just following her technique because I want to do that justice. I thought it was very, very brilliant how these ideas created just a different effect. I was like, wow. Would have never, honestly, I've done trees for years and I've never even thought of doing something like this. And I think that little combination of paint and resist spray, you know, maybe you don't need the resist spray. I don't know. But I'll follow directions. I like to do that, at least the first time.
It's super fun just to watch.
There we go. So there we have it. A little bit of paint on the outside. Okay, clean that up. And there we go. I would say that, like, if you make one and see, then you can, you know, make one for yourself and then go, okay, next time I want more paint, or I want less paint, or whatever. And you'll stay clean if you just kind of keep your fingers, keep them cleaned off. Okay, let's take that paper towel. We're going to use it again. Okay, we have our paint. And because I'm a chronic heat tool user, I just want to dry the paint. Is the paint dry? Maybe. Maybe yes, maybe no, but I just want to make sure that it's dry. There we go. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay. Now, because you put the paint on a little bit thicker, like with your fingers, you just want to make sure that it is dry. So all I did was just kind of roll it in my hands and look to see if I had any paint coming off. that was my trick. I'm like, nope. Okay, good. So we've got one with a little bit of green, one with a little bit of blue. Here we go. So this one, just going to take, and you're just going to spray with your ink sprays. This one happens to be a little evergreen bough, and I said I was probably not going to use it, but I am. I like to mix greens. I don't know why. Just occasionally. This is a little evergreen bough and some bundled sage. Okay, so I just sprayed that. Spray stain, so any kind of ink that you want. Then take a dry paper towel, pick up the tree, and give it a little squeeze. So what this is doing is it's just going to take any of that excess ink from that paint.
Damn,
but take a look at that.
tips.
You see how it's just like, it's cool. It's just like an icy thing. Now, obviously, the darker, the more dramatic. So the next one will go a little darker. I'm going to keep this same sludge down here because I don't really care about that one when I'm spraying. So, okay. So this one, Ice Spruce, this is going to be a little darker, but this is going to look nice and silvery. Okay. Ooh, I can tell already. I love this color combo. Ice Spruce and Weathered Wood, like, you know it. Okay, spray. Let's cap these up. Paper towel, and I'm just going to use the other side. Pick it up. And I'm just, I'm not killing it. I'm just wrapping around just to take any of the excess, because remember, the tips resist. So the ink is just sitting on that paint, and if you don't do anything with it, then it's still going to come off in your fingers. Look at that one.
That is so cool.
That's just so good. I don't know if you really can, I'll get this box out of the way. If you can really see just how cool is that? Look at those tips. They're so good. It would just be so different if you didn't do it. Because after I did, I'm like, well, maybe it's just more dramatic on the computer than in real life. Let me just take a tree and just spray it and see. And then when I did, I'm like, oh, okay, so different. So with this being done, I would think that if you wanted to add glitter on it, maybe you're going to use, for glitter, I like to use Collage Medium and Rock Candy. So maybe because of that, maybe your glitter will stay a little bit lighter, because technically the tips of your tree is now paint, and so you won't get that ink transfer. I've not done that yet, but I'm going to right now because I want to glitter it because we're here and we're going to. But how cool is that? So thanks, Vicky, for sharing that brilliant idea. I just think that's just magical when it comes to trees. It's just cool, isn't it? That to me is like real. That's just real vintage. Now this one's already dry, but I so want to glitter this blue one. I can't even stand it, so I'm going to dry. How long do these take to dry? I would say if you can give them a good, I'll say 15 minutes or so on their own, or maybe in the sun or with a fan, because it's a natural sisal tree. So that ink is absorbed into the bristles, and it does lighten a little bit when it dries. So, but that's okay. You can use a heat tool. If you're like me and you want to use a heat tool or a hair dryer, go for it. Really, really pretty. Kind of smells like wet rope when you're drying it. Plus it gets fluffy again. Look at that. Oh man. Fluffy. It's so fluffy.
Cool, man. Vicky nailed it.
I know. It's really, really cool. Okay. We're going to glitter this one. So for glitter on a tree, I like Collage Medium. Again, can you try Resist Spray and all that? I think Resist Spray is not going to be enough glue for a tree, but you could try Glossy Accents if you want to. When you're adding glitter to a tree, you have options. You could use a glitter duster, which we talked about, where you just want to dust the glitter on. You can spray it on, or you can just dump it on. So let's talk about glittering and dumping. I like these little pans. These are just vintage baking pans, but you can use anything. But I like, especially for the season, I like having little dumping sites. And I want two, because you could put this in and kind of roll it in. I don't really like to do that. I like to normally hold an object in and pour glitter over it. So I'll often pour from one or the other, because I glitter a lot of things and sometimes it could contaminate the glitter. So instead of always getting glitter and putting it back into the jar, I just start with enough to kind of cover the bottom, and I'll use it up for the season, and then I'll refill as I need. This way, if some of the ink came off, or, one of the little, I'll call them pine needles, came off, it doesn't go back in the whole jar of glitter. But again, you do you. Okay? So that's what I've got. I've got some rock candy in here already, just clear, and we're going to use Collage Medium. Now, when I use Distress Collage Medium, and I mentioned this earlier because I'm going to paint it on, I'm just going to use my finger. You could use a brush if you want to, but I find a brush sometimes puts it inside the tree, but you do whatever's going to work. I'm just going to take a little bit of Collage Medium and just smear it down. This way I'm not double dipping into my jar. Okay, so there we are. And let's go for it. Just going to have a paper towel here just in case. I don't know. It's almost like a little safety net. So I'm just going to take Collage Medium, and this time I'm just going to tap it on. See, because I have to work quickly. You probably have, you know, maybe a couple minutes or so. But see, by tapping it on, see how I'm just getting different droplet sizes of glue. That's really why I like to use my finger, because it's getting it right on the tips. I'm not brushing up and down. I'm just dabbing, a little tap, 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 tappity tap. And by having some Collage Medium on your table. Now, would I be doing one tree at a time? No, you guys know already. Compartmental making for the win. So if I'm in glitter mode, I have a pile of trees that I'm glittering, right? Not just one. Because I believe when you have your stuff out, you should be doing more than one thing. So I'm just going to go and just make sure that I've got Collage Medium all around, which I do. I'm just going to clean my fingers off real quick. I have my other towel, but I don't have it right in front of me. Just wipe that off while it's wet. This way it just comes off easy. And then we're going to glitter. So I'll just take some of this, pour it over the top, and just turn the tree. So I like a rectangular pan just because I have a corner for pouring. But again, you do you, whatever works. But this seems to work for most things that I want. And I'm just gonna, that's why I like having this, because I find that by having your, I'll just say, glitter sacrifice bin, you're not gonna like lightly sprinkle because I don't want to wait. Like, that's my glitter. This is my seasonal glitter. I may put it back, I may sift it, I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but I've got that. Then I'm going to take this tree, put it in the clean side, and just give it a little tappity tap. See how that glitter? Because the glitter does get stuck in between the branches. So I'd rather do that here to get that excess glitter out, because then I can pour it in. So that's really why. So this could be, really, you could use a paper plate, you could use a takeout container, use whatever you want. But if you have something that you like, it's kind of cool. Yeah, you're right. There won't be any left to sift. But this is what we have. And now this is not dry yet, so it looks...
That is beautiful.
It's so cool. It looks much whiter because, remember, Collage Medium was white when it goes on, but Collage Medium dries translucent. So we'll come back to this tree when it's dry. Could you heat set this to dry? Yes. But really, if you're in that much of a hurry, you probably shouldn't be doing glittery trees. So I would let this air dry, because I just think it's going to just dry a little bit more sparkly that way.
Look like the old ones, the vintage ones that cost so much money.
I know, they're really
they
I know the tips are cool. So I'm just going to leave it in this empty tray for it to dry. Well, I probably won't, because I'm going to need that tray in a second, but that's all right. The thought was there. Okay, set that off to the side. Trees. Thanks again, Vicki. That was really a cool idea. But see, now I've got a whole nother type of tree. So do I just make one kind? No, because I never know what my mood is. But when I'm in tree mode, I'm in tree mode. I have stuff everywhere. I have different colors, different sizes, because I'd rather just have them. Oh, thanks, Mario. I have a whole stack of these. I bought a whole stack of them, I think, on eBay. I love them. They're really lightweight, too. No, I'm good. Thank you. Okay. Let's clear this out of the way. Take the tree out of the way. That's good. We can come back to that. All right. Paint or resist spray. Gosh, I'm trying to stay organized this time, because I will say during the Halloween one, not so much. It was
hard to find stuff.
It was like besides it was hard to find, it was like a day of that. Okay. So far so good on the tree. I think I did it. I paid attention to the chat.
So nice.
Yeah, it was cool. I love seeing ideas. I think it's important to be inspired by ideas, and it's also important to not be afraid to do it, use it, share it, but just give a shout out. That's all you got to do. You're not expecting a plaque, maybe, but shouldn't. There you go. All right. Clean. Perfect. Okay, next up, while that tree is drying, let's talk about some other stuff when it comes to altering. We're going to go back to our paints. I like to alter a lot of different things, and I find myself using distress paint a lot. Distress paint, in my opinion, is my kind of paint because of its viscosity and the fact that it's like a give and take thing. But you can use regular craft paint. I want to tell you that. You can use regular craft paint for anything that I'm going to share with you today when it comes to painting. But it may not work the same. It may not have the same finish. So you kind of just need to just be aware of that, okay? What I like about distress paint is that distress paint doesn't have any fillers. I will say that maybe that is something that a lot of people don't like about distress paint, because distress paint is very fluid. Black and white being the most fluid. Black is almost like ink. It's a little too fluid, but it's still usable. But these are all very fluid by design. They don't have that chalky finish. They don't have this this kind of smoothing agent in there either. It's really a beautiful pigment that is water reactive, that will spread everywhere, but it can go on any substrate. That's what I love about this. So you could paint on fabric and it's permanent. You can paint on metal and glass and plastic. Now, when I talk about those surfaces, it doesn't mean that you can paint dishes and wash them. It doesn't mean that you can paint something in and put it outside in the elements like, oh, I'm going to paint my mailbox with it. It's not it. It's still a craft paint, but it will stick to metal and it will stick to plastic and it will stick to glass, and you can use it for so many things. These painted with distress paint, just a small little paintbrush and off you go. And it's quite easy to do. But this is something that I always want to remind you of when you have charms, that you can create a beautiful vintage look to your charms with a little bit of paint. So these are the charms that we did this year. One of my favorite sets. It's not coming back next year, I can tell you that. Just because this was one where Paul and I really wanted these in bulk, and Paul, I'm sure, totally understands. Whenever we do a package of like multiples of the same thing, it never lasts more than a year because people stock up on it and then it's gone. But that's okay, because we had a year of it, and that's what I tell people. You had a year of it, so you had a chance to stock up on it. But I love these wreaths and the poinsettia because they're great elements for cards. This could go onto a journal or a tag, but look at how great the transformation is with just a little bit of distress paint. So that's what I wanted to demo, to share how we can do it. We could even glitter this if we wanted. I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do. So our festive marquee, you could paint this as well. The bells, anything metal you can do. You could even do, you know, like any of your bands. We might grab something a little later. I want to focus on the charm real quick. And I have many things. I think this one also came with this cool holly leaf. I love this one too. Okay, so here's how we're going to work with distress paint and this. First of all, your brushes. Now, you know, I'm not this professional painter. I like tiny little brushes. I like tiny little brushes with tiny little handles just because I feel I have more control. But any kind of brush I think that you want to work with will work, okay? It could be, you know, really tiny. It could be mid-size. I just have these little cheap ones, so don't judge for that. We're going to shake up the paint. You always need to shake it. There's a mixing ball in these, okay, fluid. And then we're just going to add a drip of paint, just a drip onto the glass. If you want more, you can add more, but there's no reason that you need to add more. All right. Now that I'm working on this, will Ranger be releasing the minis for the last? Yes, they will. As soon as the last color is released, then the mini will come out, and that is all going to happen next year. So there we go. Let's do a little bit of that. Nice. I agree. I love the look of them just as metal. So I'm happy that you like that too, because the finish is important. We want to have a good finish. I want to do a little evergreen bough. I think that's going to be interesting. Maybe I'll do a retro wreath. I'm going to grab another one. Maybe I'll do a retro one with pink, and I'll do this one with a little bit of green. Okay. Maybe we'll do this with a little crushed olive. All right. There we go. All right. So see those little flakety flakes? It doesn't bother me. Some people clean off the flip top. I love the flip top paints just because creative convenience. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to do my best to try to paint, hold, do whatever. Here's how I work with this. I tend to work from the big stuff first, and then I do the details later. I don't know why. Maybe I'm totally backwards, but that's just what I do. So just going to start with a little bit of paint. Go in and paint. You can see it's super easy. So when I'm painting this, I might speed up the process by putting this on the table, because I don't think most people are aerial painting artists. Do you normally hold something when you're painting? Maybe. I don't know. I don't. I tend to hunker down. I have my face like an inch away so I can see. But when I'm painting, you can see that I'm not really being overly careful. Okay? I don't want to saturate something, but I also don't want to dry brush something, because we're going to take some of this paint off. But I want to see the detail. There we go. Now, can you do the edges? Yeah, you can do the edges. You can paint whatever part you want. So I'm just going to set this down real quick, just so I can quickly finish the green. You can see it's if you're closer to the paint, it goes quicker. But I'll hold it up just so you can see what I did. Okay, let's see. Am I even still on? Oh yeah, I'm still on frame. I don't need to zoom in. We're painting. So there we go. All right, perfect. Okay, so just like that, you're painted. See how easy that is? Don't overthink it. You're just done. Now that color's done. If I'm going to do other things, so for example, on this poinsettia, if I wanted to add some green, well, now that I have green, I'm just going to use green. So again, compartmental thinking. That's what this hoopla is also to remind you of. When you're making, if you can just sit down and prep things, you'll have this whole muffin tin and all sorts of elements that you could use for the season ready to go. Okay? So I think that's important. I'm just going to clean this brush. Just going to put it in water. Now I know in the Dina Wakley world, she doesn't like to clean her brushes in water right away, but for me, I think that's just easy. Okay. There we go. Then I think on this next one, because it's just clean enough and it's dry enough, I'm just going to do some, let's do some pink next. There we go. So for pink, yeah, I think I'll do the berries, a little bit of pink and some red. So I'm going to do pink here on the top. I'm actually going to do pink in the center of this poinsettia just because I want to. I know I did the other one yellow, but I want to because I have pink. Okay, so to clean this, because I'm going from pink to red, I am just going to use a paper towel to take off the bulk of the paint, because I know that this paint is really, this red is going to definitely dominate the pink. And then I'll just paint the ribbon of this bow right here. So on these, I'll hold this up. So this one's a little thicker. So I don't wait for one color to dry. Could you? Yes, you absolutely could. I just don't. So on this one, because that bow is really thick, I also want to get the top of it, just because I think if I was going to glue this onto a journal or something, or maybe onto a home deck piece, you might see the top, and so I want some of that color there. But you can also see that I'm really dabbing the paint on, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, I'll do some on the sides here. There we go. A little bit here, a little bit here. And this brush, this is just a little cheapo brush. I don't even know where I got this. This may have been, I think I got a little bulk pack. Okay, there we go. I'm also going to add a little bit of red onto those berries because we can. Okay, I'll set that aside, and now we're going to do poinsettia. So like I said, whatever colors of paint you have, go for it. And when I'm painting this, and I'll hold up the poinsettia just so you can see, I am being very sloppy. That's because we're going to go back and we're going to refine our paint work. So that's the other reason why I like this. I'm not really attention to detail when it comes to coloring or paint. I'm much more of a just get her done kind of thing, but that's just me. All right, so this one, I'll slide it off. Just going to grab that little, just so you can see. You see how kind of messy it is? You can kind of stay in the lines, but I'm not like, trying to not hit the edges or whatever. It doesn't matter if it goes off. Just get some paint on there. The little brush sets, I think mine has like 10 of them. I don't know, maybe I don't know where I got them. Maybe Dollar Store, maybe Joann's. But any kind of paint brush is going to work. If you're a painter, you probably already have a really fancy set of brushes. Okay, for this holly leaf, let's do a little bit of some greens. A couple of different greens in there. Little crushed olive, little peeled paint. Just kind of put that on there. Clean that with water, just wipe it off. I mean, it's a tiny little brush. If you're doing something large, maybe I'll use this flat brush. I think this flat brush will probably make this wreath go a little quicker. This one's going to be retro. So this is a little evergreen bough. I like this color at Christmas. It's that funky kind of, I don't know, tealish, bluish, greenish color, but it's a lot of fun. So look at your charm. It doesn't even have to have a good finish. You know, maybe you have some brass charms that you haven't used in forever. Maybe you have some plastic things. Maybe there are even some miniature things. The whole point of this demo is to remember that you can take elements that you have and customize it for your make. You don't have to just keep things at face value. And sometimes even these ideas are just kind of duh ideas where you're like, well, yeah, duh, of course we can paint. But seeing how it's done, maybe it'll take the fear factor. I never used to like to paint. I always thought that if I was going to do something with charms, it was alcohol ink. And you can alcohol ink these, but if you alcohol ink a charm, it's just going to be a shiny version of that color. And I think what I love about working with paint is that we are getting more of a vintage, almost enameled look to it. All right, here's my little retro one. Look at that, little pink on there. Who am I? All right, let's add a little red to these berries. And that goes right on the top. We'll set that aside. Okay, painting done. Clean that brush, dry it off. Okay, move these pieces out of the way. You can see even with that dot, because, I mean, I suppose you could try to dispense half a drop, but, I mean, that's plenty of paint. And that's just going to clean right up. So could you do backgrounds and all that with? Absolutely. You do you. Let me just get my cloth. That's much easier to clean than a paper towel. Okay, so we'll talk drying because these need to dry. Now, drying time on metal is longer. I think, you know, if you're going to do these, say, compartmental, you're probably going to want these to dry for a good, I'm going to say 30 minutes to an hour. But if you have a heat tool, just use a heat tool, heat it up. Using heat tool is nice. It's going to get the metal toasty. And once the metal gets hot, it dries the paint in seconds. So I think that that's really, really important. Okay. So do you have to heat this? No, I want to make that really clear. You do not need to heat set this at all. This is just about drying it. So while I'm drying, I read some things about colors. Peeled paint and crushed olive for the green, evergreen bough for the blue. The pink was worn lipstick, but you could use kitsch flamingo. And the red, well, it's lumberjack plaid, because that red is that's just wonderful, wonderful red. I think on that one in the center, maybe I use a little fossilized amber for the inside. But you do want your paint to be dry for this next step. It doesn't need to be totally cooked dry, but certainly dry to the touch. So once you heat metal, we're gonna let this cool. So I'm just going to move it to another part of my glass mat, because glass stays cool, but glass also retains heat. So if you try to let it cool on a warm part of your glass, it's just going to take a little bit longer. So just move it over to a cool part of your glass and just touch it. That's how you can tell. And that's how you can also tell if the paint is dry. You just touch it. If it's not wet, it's dry. That's it. Okay. So once these are done, we're going to go from this to this. And it's very, very simple to do. This to this, all right? And here is how easy it is. Now, I'm doing this for just the sake of this live. Certainly not my favorite thing, and that would be steel wool. I don't like touching steel wool. Normally, you know what? We're all friends here. I don't have to do it. Here's what normally Mario would make this for me, because I don't even like to do what I'm about to do, but I'm going to do it. Okay.
Toothpick yesterday.
I know. Look at this. I'm growing up. Okay.
You're doing so good.
I take a blending tool and I take a piece of steel wool and I tuck in all the little, well, I don't. Mario does. I really don't like touching steel wool. I don't know what it is about it. It absolutely skeeves me out. But I take a bit of steel wool, roll in all the corners and push it into the hook, the Velcro part of a blending tool, and then just push it down. And now you have a steel wool tool. So if you don't like to touch it, I don't know why. I just think I'm going to get like splinters or something. It just drives me crazy. That's what I use. I just use a steel wool tool. I'm going to get a little bit of water. Just spray with a little bit of water, and that grabs all those little steel wool fuzzies off of your glass mat better. Okay. But you want to make sure that you've got some cushion in here for what we're going to do. And all you're going to do is just take some steel wool and you're just going to go over your painted metal. Just with, and it'll take off as much or as little of that paint, see, from the raised areas as you want. Now, if you do a little too much and you remove too much color, you can always go back. But remember, we're doing this just to create a vintage look. So it's a great solution. There you go. Yeah, Mario likes steel wool. He's not bothered. He's not bothered at all. So I'm just using it, but it's also, and see, it's going to get a little crazy, but then you just get it all tucked back in. But see, look at that. It's not just, it's just a cool effect on charms. To me, it makes even just the most basic charm look vintage. And then you could even go one step further and you could alcohol ink this. So we could add a little mushroom alcohol ink on this. Maybe we'll do that on one of these. Here's our little evergreen bough and our pink. There we go. See, just a little steel wool. So could you use sandpaper? I don't really like it because it's going to scratch the metal, and this just takes some of the paint off. Look at that. Perfect. Super, super simple. And there you go. Now you can even have a steel wool tool. But all that stuff was caught on that damp paper towel. I'll touch those. Okay. So here's what we created. Look at that. Just a little transformation. I really like these colors. Look at that. Isn't that pretty? Evergreen bough and worn lipstick. Just a great little retro vibe to this. And our holly leaf. So we'll talk about just some other ways that we can alter it. If you want to make stuff more vintage, you can use mushroom alcohol ink. That's no problem, and you can create a wash over it because the paint is going to be permanent. So let's just take, I don't know, we'll take this poinsettia. So if you're gonna do a little antiquing, normally I'll just take some mushroom and place it onto the glass. I'll take this and just give it a little thin with some isopropyl, just because I want to create more of just a wash of it. And then you could just dab it on. Everyone has different ways that they can do it. Some people like to drip on and dab off, but I just find it's easier this way if I just make that little sludge and I just dab it on, because then you kind of get what you get. Let's do this on this holly as well. I'll show you exactly what we're getting. Mushroom is just great. So there you go. Clean that off and clean this up. Simple, but we'll kind of show you side-by-side comparison. Okay. Just paint. Let's see. Nothing. Just paint. Oh no! It didn't fly. I just dropped it, but I caught it with my foot. And there's paint with a little alcohol ink. So you still get great color, but now it's just a little bit more vintage. See the difference?
Wow.
Cool. Yeah. Subtle. So you may like bright colors. You do you. That's the best part of it. I love this holly leaf though. Look how this one turned out. See, I love how that alcohol ink just kind of sat in there. Very, very good. Okay. I think I'm going to glitter one of these though. I'll probably glitter a couple of those. So there you go. Easy way that we can alter that. So you're going to be altering all the things for sure. Okay. So we're going to talk about, because I'm going to get some glitter out. So I kept these because I'm going to add a little bit of glitter. We're going to talk about creating some snowy things. Snowballs, different ways that we can do snowballs, different ways that we can do confections. Some great way to add some iciness to it. Okay. So when it comes to prepping, I told you I'd be bringing this muffin tin in a lot. When it comes to prepping, I do a lot of prep ahead of time because sometimes I just need to zone out and do something creative and just go for it. Oh, Mario just brought me in. My order just got here today. Thanks, Ranger.
Like Christmas morning.
It is. I got resist spray for days now. So a lot of times all like the snowballs that we're going to show, I already have them done, or the glittered confections already done. But then I have stuff that I maybe don't have done. You know, we're going to talk about the new Pinecones. It's a great way to spend the day. And the reason I share this with you, and especially like for the hoopla, is we're not always in the mood to make something. We may think we are, and then we kind of get in our space and all of a sudden we're overthinking, we're not getting anything done. And it's better to sit down and just do some mindless creative work, the prep work. whether that's painting or glittering or alcohol inking or doing trees, then when you do have that creative vibe, because you know when it strikes, I mean, if it's like me, say it's like popcorn, when it starts popping, like look out. Like I don't even want to leave the space because I'm so in the zone. Then you have all of your stuff like ready and you're gluing and you're adding stuff. So that's really my advice for the holiday season is don't waste any opportunity to do something creative, even if you only have 30 minutes where you think, I don't have time to make something. 30 minutes, you got time to do those, whatever it is. So we're going to create these snowballs. Now this is just something I did with a little ideology barrel. Just I thought it could be a good display in something. And see, sometimes I'll even make like that. It's got a styrofoam ball in the bottom. I made this maybe last year. Have I used it yet? Nope. But did I make this? I did. So there you go. You'll never know when you're going to use it. So this we're going to work with bubbles. Now bubbles are different than baubles because they're clear. Could you do the same thing with baubles? Yes, it's just they won't be clear and icy. They'll be pearly and icy, but they'll still look really great. We're going to work with glitter. So we already know I've got my little glitter container. I've got the little dismount thing, and it's going to work the same for all the things that I want to glitter. Be that, we'll do some pine cones. So take a look at these pine cones. Aren't these great? These are new for ideology this year. I love them. They're just tiny little resin pine cones, but look how great they look, all snowy and sparkly. Super easy. So I'll take some that are not glittered yet, because they don't come glittered. They just come painted. This is how they look. They look pretty dark, but they needed to be dark because I wanted them to be perfect winter sparkle. So I'll take all the stuff that I want to do and kind of have it at the ready. So for these, do some snowballs. I'll just put some in a cup. We'll see what happens with that. I'll do some confections. The reason you want to have it ready, you'll see when we start, like it gets pretty sticky, and if you have stuff here, it just makes it easier. I've just put out a few confections. I have a lot already glittered. Okay. So if it's not confections, can you use other things? Sure, you can take any kind of element. I just like confections because they are clay, so I like that I can cut them apart. They're great on a make because they don't break. You know, if you try to do little plastic things, sometimes it's going to break. So that's just my thing, okay? The glue we're going to use for this is going to be glossy accents. Why? Well, just because I find that I like it the best. It's going to be very tacky, very quick. It dries clear, but it also dries shiny. So on these elements, because I want them to be sparkly, because I think, I mean, the candy cane's great, but man, the candy cane covered in sugar is just better. I love the look of it. I just find that glossy accents is easier for this. Could you use resist spray? Yes, it's just going to work different. It's going to saturate more. And this is more about getting it on the outside quicker. Could you use collage medium like we did on the trees? Yes, all the glues are the same. It's just you have to figure out what properties you like of a glue and what it's going to do for you when it comes to working. So, okay, so let's start. So what I'm going to do for this is the glue hand, I'm going to put on a glove. Why? Not because I'm worried about getting glue on my fingers. I just find that a glove allows me to be a little bit more messy, sloppy, and it keeps the glossy accents going more. If you don't like to wear gloves, don't. If you just want to use your fingers, go for it. But this is what's going to be my gluing finger. Kind of looks, yeah, looks like Dexter a little bit. Okay, glossy accents. So glossy accents, this stuff is pretty messy to clean up. So you can put it right on your glass mat. It will clean off. Just sometimes you'll need water or maybe even hand sanitizer to take it off. But there again, I find it just easier to work with if I squeeze some out. Now, if your glossy accents like mine isn't coming out because, well, I used it last night and I didn't thunk the top, take a little wire. I always have a wire handy. And I just normally use a piece of wire that's long enough, and I have the hook because I like to just like turn it around, okay? Just to kind of get that going. Then you're going to take glossy accents and you're going to make a pile of it. How big of a pile? I don't know, it just depends. Maybe start with a nickel. Then when you're done, give it a couple of thunks like this, which is probably what I didn't do last night, and that should take most of the glue out of the tip. I'm getting down to the end, so that's also an issue. Okay. So what we want to do is this. We're going to take our gluing finger. Let's start with a snowball, because that's what I was going to do. Okay, so this is going to be like the pick up the thing. This is going to be the glue thing, and we drop it in the glitter. You guys got it? Okay, here we go. You're going to pick up some of that glue on your finger, put that in there, slide that around. Okay, you can see on the glove it just gets very slippery, and then drop it in and shakety shake. Now, could you have both of your hands gloved? Absolutely, really, you do you. But see, the glossy accents is still on there, so I don't need any more at this point. You'll know when you need more when you don't have any slip and slide. But you do whatever works. I'm just sharing what works for me, and I've found that this just, I don't know, it keeps the factory going. And see, by having this little tray, I can have stuff roll around and shake in there. Let's do a little small one. There we go. Whoop, bye-bye. I'll grab that one. Here we go. Little shakety shake. There's that one over there. All right. And the neck, you get more glossy accents when your hand, now see how it's sticky? So once it's that, you need more glossy accents because you're not going to get the slip inside. It's just going to be too tacky. So there's our glitter snowballs. Look at that. Isn't that great? Perfect little icy snowballs. So I'll take those out and put them into the clean tub. So this way any excess glitter can still come off a little bit later, but I'm just gonna keep going because I've got glossy accents going. I've dipped more in there. That gets everything slip and slide again. Now for the pine cones, I'm just rolling them back and forth. See that in between my fingers? Pick that up, just roll, because you don't want to paint it, because we only want to get it on the outside of the pine cone. We don't want it on the inside because we want some of that, we still want that dark to show through. Here we are. See, so easy. You could have Christmas tunes playing and off you go. It's just easier than you think if you just remember that creativity is fun. I think, you know, in today's world, we are busy. We feel overwhelmed. We love social media. We love being inspired, but then it's like, we forget how much fun creativity is. And it saddens me when, you know, somebody will make something and the first comment is like, how long did that take you? I'm like, okay, maybe you just want to know, I guess, just because you want to know. But I think a lot of people are already discouraged about the time spent. And to say like, oh, that took me 6 months. Yay, that was like 6 months of creativity. All right, see this little spot that is missed? Don't worry about it. We could take a little bit more. And this is where I'm just going to actually use the glove to put glitter just where I want. There you go, done. So let's take these out of the glitter bath. I saw that. And I'll show you those. But see, this is also great because I don't mind this drying on my glove. I hate glossy accents on my finger. I don't know if anyone else does, but glossy accents on your finger, it's like it sticks there and then you lose like the sensitivity to touch. All right, take a look at these pine cones. Look at that. This is why I love glossy accents, because this stuff is already dry. It just dries so quick, but I love these little snowy pine cones. I love that, you know, it could have more snow on one side or the other. Look at that. Super simple. All right, let's do some confections. Here we go. Dip into that. So this one's a little bit, I like that, again, that these are clay. It's kind of a slip and slide. So you can just pick this up, move it around throughout the glove, drop it in, shakety shake. Do a little mint, shakety shake. And you do have to shake each one. So that's why you can see this system, and maybe this system isn't for you, but it makes me really efficient because I'm not sticking to everything. I got a clean hand to still kind of work, and I've just got one sticky, that would be all over your hands right now, guys. Ugh. Drives me crazy. There we go. All right. Shakety shake on the confections. Let's take those out. So see, by the time you're done, you just take it out. It's super fast. And you can see by having these little containers, see when I was saying like glitter all things? That's what I love about that big jar of glossy accents. It has changed my glitter season for sure. Not that I didn't use it a lot. It's just really nice to just like, who cares when I'm pouring it because I just use it. Right, Mario? Who cares? Who cares? All right. So this, although it looks wet, can you guys, oh, maybe you can't see it. it looks wet, but it's dry. That's the thing about glossy accents. It dries glossy. So I'm going to need just a little bit more. There we go. Ready to go. So yeah, some good thunks. A fuller bottle is much quicker, and all that's doing is just pulling that excess glue out of the tip and just prevents it from clogging as often. Can't say ever, okay, just a little bit. All right. So this one, now it really depends on how you want to approach this, because we don't need to glitter the back, we just need the front, but I'm still going to kind of follow the same thing where I'm using my thumb to kind of, I'll say, balance it really, but I don't care if it gets some glitter on the back. But now I'm just going to stick that like face down into the glitter. Oh, there's a mint in there. There it is. Okay. Ooh, that's pretty. All right, so all I did was like getting glossy accents on these two fingers that I lay the charm face down in, and I'm using these fingers to kind of tappity tap on there. Because again, I'm just trying to get it on the top, but put it in the glitter bath, and we'll take it out. Okay, I won't do those. You guys have seen the process. So this, we're going to clean this up. So easy to clean. I don't use my ink towel for glossy accents. It gets a little sticky. I know Ted does. I remember when I would demo at the shows, and every time I'd pick up one of Ted's ink towels, I'm like, it was like a, I don't know, a statue. It like had shape. I'm like, what do you clean up? He's like, everything. I'm like, glue glossy accents? Yeah. So I never do. Yeah. I just use it for inks and paints. So I just clean that up with a little bit of water, because glossy accents is water based. Okay. So because something's water based, that means you can clean up with water, even though it's dry. Okay. And we're done with this. Take that off. No sticky hands. Yay. All right. So here's what we've got. So this, I'm just going to give all this stuff a shakety shake. Why? Because I want to just take off any excess loose glitter that's on there. But now we have our snowballs. Look at those. Excellent. We can add that to the tin. Use them for whatever. We've got our confections. Love the sparkly, shiny, sugary goodness of confections. There's our sticks, our little mints. So you can see it's super fast to do. Take out our pine cones. There's all our snowy, look at that, snowy, sparkly pine cones. So could you put paint on these first? Sure. You could go in and add a little bit of white. You could take that and you can roll white paint and then do glitter. That's fine too. But I just like the iciness. But again, there's many, many creative options. And then let's take a look at our charms. So this excess glitter, see, we have our system that goes back in there, and now that stays empty. And then I normally stack these, and that's how I store them. So they kind of sit together, so I don't have to worry about spilling the glitter. It is perfect, huh? It's like now we need glitter tins. No, kidding. Okay, let's take a look at these. That beautiful, sparkly, snowy charm. Still have the color, right? Now I'm not saying you have to glitter everything, but it's nice to have options to be able to say like, oh wow, glittering a metal charm. That's so, and look at this one. Isn't that great? It just adds another element. It goes in there, goes in the tin. So there you have it. That's ideas for smaller things. Okay. I do love that sparkle, rock candy for everything. But as with anything, I get ideas and I start like thinking about stuff. So while I was at the dollar store, I do love the dollar store, not gonna lie. We have one literally like 5 minutes from the house. I found these and I'm like, okay, this just sounds too good to be true. One, anyone that knows me, if something lights up or has a remote control, you can sign me up, because like a glow cube is probably one of my most favorite things. And I have bags of them because I like them. Every drink should have a glow cube every day of your life. Okay, these are icicles that light up, and they are beautiful. They were $1, maybe $1.25. I think they were on the Christmas aisle. Okay, but take a look at these. So these are acrylic, and they are pretty. I mean, I like that, but to me, it's like, I don't know. When I see that, I see this is like more of like a melted one and not so snowy. So I was like, oh, what happens if you rock candy? So same thing. just done with rock candy. Exactly the same way I did the snowballs. So you could do glossy accents, you could do resist spray. Again, do whatever you want. Resist spray is probably going to be a little bit wetter. So I did one with glossy accents. I think, I'm trying to see if I can see the difference. This one is glossy accents. This one is resist spray. You probably can't tell the difference, but this one's a little bit more chunky, and I liked the resist spray, but then because I was running out, I used glossy accents. So it worked, but I like that this got into more of the little crevices. But what's great about these is that you just turn this to light them up. Isn't that great? They come with the batteries and all that. I just think they're really pretty, and I really like how they look sparkly with those LED. So that's really great. So if you're looking for, maybe it's something that you want, maybe you want to put something in a wreath or a decor, that's just really, it's a simple way to take that. And especially when they're off, I love how they look compared to this. That's just a preference though. Some people might just like that whole look, but the whole point is take a look around of what's available and utilize it. I think this would be a great addition, if you're gifting someone a bottle of wine or something like that, just to add this, because it's a cool ornament too. I mean, it's really bright. It could also be like a flashlight, or I don't know, Harry Potter, who knows? It's fun. Lights up, count me in, but seriously, not a bad thing, and glittering it, I think transformed it specifically into something magical. So that got me into kind of snowball mode. And this next one is silly, but hey, the Hoopla is all about silliness. I love the idea of little snowballs. I saw this online and I'm like, I loved the idea of having snowballs in your house for decor. And normally when I see them, everyone's like lightsaber. Normally when I see them, they're like usually really chunky or plastic. I'm like, I wonder if we could like make snowballs. So I love this. There's a little plate. I love this little vintage plate I got from Mr. Cup. But especially living in Arizona, although we do get snow because we're in northern Arizona, I thought, wouldn't it be cool to make little snowballs? Snowballs that look like snowballs. They're wonky. They have that great little look. So I figured I'd share how I made silly little snowballs. Really simple. Okay. So I used grit paste Snowfall. That's my snow base. I use, let me find, I'm trying to find my paintbrush. I have it somewhere. Maybe I don't. Oh, here it is. It's in my bucket. It's everything I need is right here, Tim. You're a good prepper. A paintbrush. You could use your finger, but I found a paintbrush easier. Something to put the snowballs in to dry. So Mario just gave me like this piece of foam. Stick it in because we are going to use toothpicks. Yep. Took a deep breath. And we're going to use styrofoam balls. Now, styrofoam balls, you can use crunchy ones or you can use smoothie ones. It doesn't really matter. Because I want them to keep their shape, I chose the smoothie ones. I have the crunchy ones because I use them for a lot of other crafting projects, but I found that the smoothie ones work really well. So Kuber, I know she bought a whole batch of a smoothie one. She's like, now what do I do? Now you got them. I got a whole pack of maybe 12 of them for like $1.99. These are they're about 1.5 inches, but you can get different sizes as well. But it's a very lightweight, easy to do thing. And let's dump those out. Ready to go. Okay. So in addition to our Snowfall grit paste, which is going to be our foundation, our styrofoam balls, which is our base, our toothpick, just to help hold on to them, really, and our brush, we need to come up with some sort of icy concoction. You can do whatever is going to work for you, okay? I made my own snowflakes jar. You don't have to do this. You could do whatever you want. You can keep everything separate. Because I had a partial jar of mica flakes, I took leftover mica and mixed it with glitter. So I would say it's like, I don't know, maybe 50 parts glitter, 50 parts mica. It's like a half and half mix. It doesn't have to be exact, but I didn't want it to just be mica flakes and I didn't want it to just be glitter because whatever sticks to the paste first sticks to the paste. So that's where my little mixture came in. And once I did it, I'm like, I don't care. I have it for the whole season. So I happen to have a leftover jar, but if you didn't and you had both rock candy and mica flakes, you can just mix a little bit into an empty jar and have it,
I love
that's
your
fine.
little label.
So, hey, that's an ideology sticker. I took an ideology label sticker
so
and I was like, snowflakes. Because that's really what it's going to be. It's going to be for anything snowy that I want to do, like on a vignette or anything. But if you have a label maker, you can do that as well. Hey, I like to just use what I got. Okay, I'm going to stick a toothpick into the ball. And you want to stick it in, you know, about halfway. Just, I mean, you kind of need a little bit of resistance. I'm going to take a little bucket for my snowflakes. Yeah, they have just great, isn't they great texture? I love the iciness of it. They're good fun. They are. Okay, so we've got our snowflake mixture. There we go. And, oh, let's do this one. I don't think I'm going to make 3, but
Damn, look at you
just
going
to have
with a
them.
toothpick.
I know, it's awful. That's fine as long as it's not in someone's mouth. That's where it's like gross. Okay, here we go. So we're going to take our grit paste Snowfall. So I have press and seal in mind because you can see it's less than half, and if you don't seal your stuff, it's going to dry up. So I'll peel that off. Now, do you have to use Snowfall? Honestly, you don't on this one. If you had grit paste translucent, that would also work because it's a translucent base. Grit paste sparkle already has sparkle in it, so I figured it couldn't hurt because maybe if I missed a spot, I would still get some sparkle. Okay, then you're just going to scoop up the sludge. Okay, and then you're just going to start smearing this on. I worked from the bottom first. Just went around that toothpick, just painting it on. Could you use a palette knife? Like I said, could you use a palette knife, your fingers? Yes, you could use all of that. But I'll just kind of show you what I did. Just going around. I want this to be covered, but the styrofoam ball is the snowball. I don't need to make a snowball out of grit paste. Okay? But I do want to be pretty generous on the application first. You'll see I end up taking much of this off, but it's just easier when it's all, see, it's chunky on there. It's really nice. Okay, once it's on there, then I'll just go in and kind of just take my brush and smooth it around. Meaning if I have any high points, I can scrape this back into the jar. I don't want it to be thin, but I don't want it to be overly thick because it's just going to be a waste of your product. Okay, and I just kind of give it a once over just to make sure. I also like with this that it does have a nice texture, so I can see if I'm like missing a spot of the styrofoam ball. Okay, so once it's covered, you set that down. You're going to take your little tray, you're going to take your little mix, and we're just going to shakety shake, pour this mix over it. Okay, and the mica flakes kind of go to the top, the glitter goes to the bottom, and once it's coated, here's the next part that I do. I take the pan and I'll just kind of roll. There we go. I'm trying to go sideways. I just kind of roll across in it, kind of tap in there and just roll. One, that smooths it out. See, it just gives it that great little texture. But two, it just makes sure that the mica flakes get pressed into it, because mica flakes, well, they're flaky and they don't like to set in it. Also, you want to make sure that you get around that toothpick area, because when that comes out, it'll cover itself up. There you go. So you don't necessarily want to pack it with your hands, but just letting it roll onto itself. There we go. That's what we have. And then you're going to just stick it in the styrofoam for it to dry. Drying time, really not long at all. Probably takes about, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. Easy. Okay. So there we go. We'll do one more. Super simple. So I think the reason I start at the bottom is because I kind of think that maybe if I put some of this goo around the toothpick, it helps hold the styrofoam ball a little bit better. But that's the other reason why I found that these more solid styrofoam balls were easier to work with than the crunchy ones, because the crunchy ones just didn't want to stay. But yeah, just kind of be generous with your paste. You can see that the brush a palette knife was too rough. It was scraping it. My finger, my gosh, I had more stuff on my finger than the ball. So, you just use what's going to work best for you. But pretty simple. So does it have to be a snowball? No. Think about other things that you maybe want to do this to. I'm not sure what that would be, but maybe you want to do an ornament like a snowman, and you want to kind of give it that look. Well, this is a way to do it. Okay. So now I'm just going to just start taking off the excess. That's what I'm doing now with the brush. And so I'm lightly, just any of those peaks, I'm just pulling that off with the brush, scraping it back into the jar. Easy, right? Easy, easy. You know what? I got these at, I got the styrofoam balls just at the craft store. I didn't look at the dollar store for that, honestly, but they might have them. Wouldn't surprise me if they did. Okay. So I want to pour first. I don't want to just dip it in there because I want to get a mix of my snow mix. See, if you dip it, you're probably only going to touch the mica flakes, and I want that mica and glitter. My whole snow mix. Okay. Then we'll take it, just roll across. See? Simple. Simple but fun. And just great because then you have something like year round that you can bring out for decoration. And I think getting different sizes would be really good. I mean, I'm going to go back and get different sizes. I didn't this first time because I didn't know if this idea was good or stupid, but I liked it. I thought it was fun. There we go. So like this, you know, when this dries, these little pieces will come off. See these little ones that are sticking out? They're not going to stay like that, but just still let it dry because, you know, you want that snowball to have those little pitted. That was the other thing I saw. Like any of the snowballs I saw were just, they were so perfect and uniform. And I love just how random this is and easy and cheap. I mean, really, I know the styrofoam balls were $1.99, I think, for 12 of them. And so to have this, that's it. So there we have one that we didn't do. That's good. And then we've got our mix. Pour it back in. And our snow mix. Okay. And that's how easy it is. So simple. So fun, right? I think it's really, really good. All right. Easy enough. Easy to make your own snowballs. Okay. See, who knew? You think you were going to just come here, learn about like Dollar Tree icicles, snowballs, all of that. Okay, let's get that cleaned up. So for glitter, mica, I just use a Swiffer, but you can use really whatever you want to use to clean that off. Okay. Okay. So far, so good. Everyone doing okay? Perfect. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about some icy stuff, and then we're going to get into color. So let's see. I got this, and I got this little. See, I've got trays everywhere, guys. I'm ready to go. All right. So if you were creating something icy and frosty, and I've talked about this because we're going to talk about Snowfall, and we're also going to talk about Sparkle. One thing to remember about any of your pastes is some pastes are going to be white base and some pastes are going to be clear base depending on what their properties are. So if it's going to dry translucent, it's going to be a clear base. So Snowfall grit paste as well as translucent grit paste are clear versus regular grit paste, which is white. You can tint these with your reinkers. So this is the snow that we were using, like on the Snowball or whatever, but you can make this in any color you want, even yellow. You know, not that you want yellow snow, but it could be any color icy. I mean, look at some of these. Really, really beautiful. Just using your reinkers. So you would use a water-based reinker, not alcohol ink. So any kind of water-based colorant, like for your stamp pads. Could you use a spray stain? I would not recommend using a spray stain because it's going to make this too wet and slimy. I would not recommend using paint because paint is opaque. And so if you mix it, this is no longer translucent. You've now mixed an opaque medium in there and it would turn it opaque. So that's why I suggest a water-based reinker, a stamp reinker, like a distress reinker or any of the reinkers you have for your stamp pads. You just scoop some of this out, put it in one of your fancy cups. You can get one of your, see, who knew I would get tinting so many things with plastic spoons and all of that goodness. Let me just grab, let's see, where is it? I was going to grab a spoon. That's all right. I won't. I was going to grab a spoon, but I don't know what I did with my, do you see where I put the plastic spoons? Mario's very organized. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
What else are you looking for?
Let's see. I've got another tray.
This one?
Nope. No, I've got the other big tray for part 2.
This one?
Nope.
Nope.
Another one. There's another tray. I don't know where I put it. I might have put it in the closet. Anyway, because it's got the re-inkers. So can you grab me a distress re-inker from the top, please? Just pick a light blue. That'll work. Oh, I know where it is. I have it right here, but I'll just take that. Perfect.
Whew.
Woo, look at that. Mario for the win. Thanks, Mario.
Sure.
He's always there. All right. This is just easy. It could be anything, okay? So just going to take a little bit of that paste, and you can mix it in a cup. I mean, because I have a cup, I honestly wouldn't. I would just mix it here and then use it. So I'm not even going to bother with a cup, but this is how I would make it. This is one of those things that unless you wanted to sacrifice an entire jar to make a color, right? Because maybe you wanted to create something, you know, you were going to use a certain color on everything for the whole season. That's fine. But usually if I'm tinting, I kind of tint to order, if you will. But you're just going to take a re-inker, could be really any color you want, and just start with a dot of ink. Literally whatever comes off of the dot or dropper, and then you're just going to mix it. Pretty simple. That couldn't be easier. And you can use a palette knife for this. You certainly don't have to use a spoon, but the idea is that you kind of mix and push it down, and that's what's going to distribute the color that you want. Then when you go to apply it, you can apply it on, you know, any surface or substrate that you want. And when you spread it on, just know that this is going to dry much more translucent and light than what you see, because this goes on almost like, I'm not going to say opaque, but it definitely goes on with a little bit more opacity. So if you wanted this really light, you can spread it out really, really thin, and it's still going to dry with that grit and that little bit of sparkle, because Snowfall has just clear glitter in it. Where it's built up, you'll see from just these, like these color samples, this is a good example. You can see that where it's really thin, you can see some of that white paper, and where it's built up, you see more of the color. But it has just a beautiful sparkle to it. Not glittery sparkle, just snowy, icy sparkle. So yes, easy to tint this stuff. So put my little spoon in there. I'll reuse that for something else. Okay, there you go. So now we got that answered. I'm going to talk real quick about something else icy while we were in ice mode, and then we're gonna talk some stencils, and I got a lot of stuff planned. I'm just going through the table. It's nice just to look down and be like, okay, that's what we're going to do next. All right. So we'll talk a little bit about snow and ice, because I did talk about what I love about working with this paste. I think this is maybe during Ideology Live. I talked about this. I'm not really sure which one, but I've talked about it many, many times. And that is when we're creating snowy things. Okay. So these are the new baseboard windows that were from Ideology, especially our Christmas pack, have these beautiful storefronts. Okay. And you can do different things. So you can take a bit of transparency. I use shrink plastic as my transparency. I don't shrink it, but I just like the weight of it. But you can also, you can really use any kind of transparency. Stick it to the back. I just use score tape for mine, but you can use glue. And then this, I added a little bit of Snowfall to the windows, just using a little brush, just kind of picking it up. But you can see it gives it that perfect little snowy, icy effect built up in the windows, and you can use it for your backgrounds. I also love this stencil. This is stencil number 21 from Stampers Anonymous. This speckly stencil is my favorite for snow because it is incredibly random. It's not just circular dots. It's just very, very random. But I love what it does on a transparency. And again, this is just this could be shrink plastic. This I think might even be Dura-Lar that I have in the alcohol ink line. But take a look at how it looks like ice. So because it has that really great texture to it, and it grips onto this plastic really well, but see, it dries with that translucency. And this is a perfect icy background for your windows. You know, maybe you wanted to put this onto something and you're going to light it up, or maybe you're even going to do this for pictures. And that was the other thing I wanted to remind you of. If you do a lot of you know, family photos, maybe you want to gift a photo, this is a great thing to add to the photo, meaning you can take out the glass from that photo frame, or you can, if you don't want to do that on the glass, you can just cut a piece of acetate the same size, and you can put this in the frame, then you can put the glass behind it, then you can put your photo in case you want to remove this, okay? But you can add this feature to, say, the outer edge of a picture, especially if it's like a family photo for the holidays, and just it gives it a nice snowy, icy look. It would stick right onto glass the exact same way. So it doesn't always have to go behind a window, but just something to keep in mind that it gives a really cool wintry effect. And again, that's Snowfall grit paste because it's translucent, has that little bit of sparkle. You place it down, you take a palette knife, and you simply spread it right through there. Lift it off, let it dry, okay? But I wanted to come up with another way that maybe you didn't always want to do snow. Maybe snow wasn't your thing because you wanted a different light behind it. Maybe you wanted to do trees or anything like that behind a window. So the people at Graphics, they do Dura-Lar. So Dura-Lar is in the alcohol ink line, but this is not the same as what's in the alcohol ink line as far as thickness. The stuff in the alcohol ink line is very thick, but Graphics also sells Dura-Lar that is 0.004. So that number is really important. It is incredibly thin. Like, it comes with this tissue paper that's kind of separated. Okay, so each sheet is separated, but it's like really thin, almost like, I think it's even thinner than the transparencies they would use in school in the overhead projector. You know what I'm talking about? You want something very, very thin. So this is a 0.004. The reason I say that is because this folder that I did this year with Sizzix, this cracked folder, is a beautiful folder. It creates a beautiful crackle effect. So that's just on cardstock or whether you're going to do something, you know, inky. But I took a clear piece of this Dura-Lar and used this folder, and look at what it creates. It is the coolest, icy, cracked look for a window. So you can place that behind like a storefront window to get that icy look. So you can still see it, right? You can totally see through it. But I love how that folder just distorts the whole image. I think it, really, isn't that beautiful? It gives it such an icy look, but it remains completely translucent. And I think it's just something about the lines and those little pockets of this particular embossing folder that creates a very, very cool effect. Now, I did try embossing thicker stuff. You just don't get the detail at all. You don't get any of this tiny little texture. See, this has so many of the little pits. That's what is reflecting that light so perfectly. So a thinner plastic film is really, really good. So yeah, adding a battery operated tea light, or maybe you color the back with Copics or something before you emboss it, then you could have like this crackly stained glass. But isn't that a great effect? So I just wanted to share that because I was playing around. I'm like, yeah, you know, I've done that. What else could I do? This is how I get with the Hoopla. I'm like, gosh, what else could I do? And then I just picked this up and go in my drawer, and I was like, what makes you think of that? I'm like, I don't know. It just stops. But it's a cool thing for this folder. So if you have this folder and you've used it for crackly stuff, use it with a transparency. Try what you have. Like, does it have to be Dura-Lar 0.004? No, this is what I had. My point is, whatever you have, the thinner the better, because it will have more detail. Doesn't mean it won't emboss thicker transparency, but the thinner the better, because then you get all of that. And I think for Christmas windows, it is super cool. It is. It's beautiful. I love the effect of it. And you could alcohol ink this ahead of time. It could be like amber glass. It could be kind of green and Coke bottle and whatever. But yeah, I mean, I think that Graphics products are totally worth just investing in, because you can, well, all the things. You can paint and you can cut it. So, you know, when I was cutting this, because I was playing around with, this is not a time to plug the trimmer. It's just, that's my trimmer that was here. But I was like, I haven't really played around with the precision trimmer in plastic. And I'm like, I wonder if it's going to cut this. I don't really know. Yeah, and it did. Like, I love the fact that it would cut. Now, I don't know how thick it's going to cut, but that's an easy way that you could cut this. So any paper trimmer that you have, you'll be able to cut something thin. So keep that in mind, okay? So that was kind of the icy play. I do love that. So good. So good. Okay. Moving this aside. All right. Yeah, Dura-Lar is more of a mixed media thing, but I also think it's much more cost effective than even buying acetate sheets, I think. But really, you can find acetate. Maybe you can even try like recycled packaging. There's a lot of options for clear stuff, but just remember, it's got to be thin. Okay, let's talk sparkle. We talked Snowfall, now we're going to talk sparkle because I do love this paste. I am so happy that Ranger has agreed to keep this paste in the line. Whoop! So shout out to Ranger for saying yes. Shout out to you guys for supporting it so much. This was a seasonal release, texture paste sparkle. It was only going to be for like how we do Snowfall and crypt paste, but because I love how you can tint it and how you can use it, I'm like, this is just such a great paste to have all the time. So sparkle, different than Snowfall. This is a translucent high gloss paste that has little tiny specks of a metallic glitter. Okay, so it's not textured and chunky like Snowfall. It is smooth, okay, but it is translucent. And the flecks of glitter remind me of, like, I agree, Paula, like, thank you. Yeah, I was so happy. I kept saying to Alan, like, please, Alan, please, like, just watch what people thought of it. Watch what I did with it. So this is what the paste does out of the jar, okay? You can see that it is a high gloss, super shiny. It creates texture, but those little tiny flecks of metallic glitter, it's like old school Formica. Like if you went to a diner, right? Now that's like what the table looked like, or the chairs. Little metallic, there you go. You can even see that glitter. It's got great sparkle and great shine, but it's not a glitter paste where everything is completely opaque. Well, it's a good thing you bought 4 jars, Paul, because you never know, right? If you didn't, you'd be like, whoop, whoop, glad you have it. But this could be tinted into a bazillion colors. This is done exactly the same way as the Snowfall, where you just take a re-inker. But take a look at how the color, like picked raspberry, I mean, just come on. Think of just adding this color over stars, moon, flower, anything that you, now they're upside down, there we go. Anything that you, see the glitter will always, I love this, this one is crushed olive, distress. These are all done with distress re-inkers. But like for spring, if you want to do that for, and you could apply this not only through a stencil, but you can also just paint it on. You can see you get a little bit of that color, but you're always going to get that high gloss. This is bundled sage, perfect for Christmas. So you could still put this even on like your trees. You could still put this on. It's just going to give a little gloss, a little shine. I think I'm going to try that because that sounds really, I love this one, Mowed Lawn. Then we get into the blues, you know, it's a little speckled egg. But you see how because the glitter is metallic, it will always stay that color. All your tinting is the translucent paste. And there's a bazillion, I couldn't stop, you could tell. And this is what I did in the demo where I just said to Alan, I'm like, do you see, Alan is one of the owners of Ranger. I'm like, do you see like the creative possibilities? Look at that. See those preserves? It's like sparkly jam. And then we get into the grunge, the antique linen, this one, frayed burlap. Gosh, that's just good. A little vintage photo. Walnut stain. This one's lost shadow. This is nice because it just adds a little sparkly shadow. And then black. And you can do this, like you can add it before or after. I found that I really didn't like to die cut through this. You can die cut through this, but it should be thin and your die should not be very detailed. But you could die cut through this after the fact, but I found it easier that once it was done, once I die cut something, then I just spread it through the die cut and then pop the die cut out from what I cut and then let it dry. That was easier for me, but really whatever works. We're gonna use sparkle with some stencils. We're gonna do some colors and just talk about it. But I did wanna remind you of how you can color it. Do I love these swatches? I do, because they're so good to look at. But these could easily be card fronts. Just stick something on it, little stamp sentiment, and you're off to go. But the inspiration really behind sparkle was knowing that I could ink something and then add a sparkle over the top where it would highlight the color, but also just give those little flecks of glitter, but allow me to see my ink color. So all of these were done with sparkle right out of the jar. So none of these are tinted. Okay, none of these are using that tinted thing. This was just like, oh, I wonder what it looked like tinted. But these are all using sparkle right out of the jar. And it's so, like, this is an idea. Paula did this one. She shared this idea with me, and I thought that was really good. Let me see if I can get it to really show. But this, she's like, did you take that and just like spread it onto the paper, just paint it on? I'm like, no, you can do that? I just thought like a paste. And she's like, yeah, and it keeps that paper super sparkly. There you go. You can just see it gives it a great subtle finish, and it gives the paper kind of a sheen as well. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. It's so pretty. Oh my gosh. So yeah, you could just paint it onto something. But then I was like, okay, now I really want to get into the whole holiday candy cane thing. So I'm just going to demo how we can use it with inks, stencils, and then just use the paste right out of the jar. Okay. So let me get a piece of, I'm going to take a piece of media grip and get a big piece. I'll use this one. I'm just going to start with a piece of media grip for stenciling. That'll be for something big, but then I'll have this one for, I think, a smaller stencil. Okay. All right. Then we'll start with just a little, we'll do a little inking first. So I'm just going to lay a piece. So you can use a sticky mat. You can do, I'm not a fan of magnets, so I don't use magnets, but I use media grip because I can just wash it and reuse it. Then I'm going to take we'll just do a little background. Why not? We'll do a little, you could do watercolor cardstock. It doesn't really matter what your background is. It's completely up to you what you want to do. Take some inks. Let me get some inks out. I got my inks, my minis. You can use distress ink. You can use oxide. Would it smear digital print? Well, it depends on what you printed it on. If you did a digital print on an inkjet, yes. If you did it on laser, it shouldn't. Won't say that it won't, because not all printers are created equal, but it shouldn't. All right, I've got my inks. There we go. And I'll demo the candy cane sticks too, because that's pretty fun. But first we'll just start with just a single image. So I'm just gonna open this up real quick. Let's pick a stencil. Let's do this one. Because that's got a lot of stuff going on. Something I can add a lot of colors to. Okay, let's do that first. Why not? Okay. And is that in frame? Yeah, you guys can see that. Okay. So when I work with a stencil and media grip, I just like to have the grip is just going to hold my paper. It's also going to hold my stencil-ish, but I've talked about this before. I'm a hinge guy. I like to hinge my stencils because I like to be able to see it and go back to it. So I'll just take a piece of, you can use masking tape, washi tape, painter's tape, whatever tape you want. Probably a bigger piece than what I just hacked off of this roll. There we go. Get a piece and stick this down. This way I can like look to see what I've got and go back. I'm going to use brushes. You can use any kind of brush that you want. It could be an ink brush, a blending brush, whatever it is that you want to work with. I'm going to take, where is the tin that's got some space? Okay, so next I'm going to choose colors that I want. So I think for the berries, I'll use Festive Berries. That seems like a good one. And maybe I'll use a little bit of pink. So maybe I'll use some Kitsch Flamingo. Then I will pick some greens. We'll use a little peeled paint, a little Twisted Citron, a little bit of Rustic Wilderness, and probably a little bit of Forest Moss. Now that's a very dark color, which is good. Let's see, do I have any yellows? Nope, don't need any yellows. Do I want any blues? Maybe. Maybe a little bit of Weathered Wood just for good measure. Any purples? No, although I know people would do purple berries, and you could totally do that. And then maybe I'll use a little Vintage Photo and a little Walnut Stain. Okay, so I've got all of these. That's first thing is picking your colors, and I'm going to even use a little Gathered Twigs too. I always suggest that just because if you're like really any other maker, color selection is where we spend the most time. And so if you just do it and you commit, you get what you get and you don't throw a fit, right? You're not going to be like, oh, what's my next color going to be? I prefer to do this with any kind of ink, actually. Minis are easy because I can swap colors very quick, but you could do this with oxide if that's what you have. It could be any kind of thing that you want to work with. But you're going to have some options when it comes to how you want to ink. So if you have a storage tin, you know, use what you have. If you have an ink stand, if you've got some sort of grip, you know, use whatever stuff that you want. But often if I'm doing inking, because I do get an ink mode, I will often set up my tin like this, meaning I'll put the ink in its base and I'll put the coordinating lid right above whatever color I'm going to do. Because if I'm doing this, often I wouldn't be doing one. I'd be like just rocking and rolling. So I'd have a palette, and then this tells me what that color is. And this might be way too much for you. You might be like, who cares? Just get to inking. But it also, I'll just do kind of some grungy stuff down here, okay? So that's just going to be for the inks. This is going to hold my ink pad while I'm blending. So just so you know off camera how I've got it. And then I've got my brushes. These are just my distress brushes. But again, you can use any blending brush. I just use a Sharpie to go around the outside, just that little ring so I know. So I have a dedicated one for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, and brown. So I'm going to start with greens, just because, I don't know why. The brush is going to allow me to pick up color, and you can double dip, so you could blend from here into here. You're not going to contaminate your inks by dipping one into the next. It's completely fine. But when I go to ink, if I have a small stencil like this, even with this brush, I'm going to slide this up, and that's going to make these bristles more compact. And that's just going to allow me to kind of focus where I want this color. And I'm still going to hold my stencil. I mean, even though I have a grip and even though I have all these tape and all the other stuff, I mean, what else am I going to do with my hand? Hold it over my head? Not in a rodeo. It's just easy for me to kind of manipulate the ink colors this way. All right, then knowing what other colors, so if I want a little rustic wilderness, because you can see, there you go, it's up there. I'm just going to pick up some of that color. Maybe I'm going to go into the pine needles. It makes inking, for me, it makes it easier. I told you, it's all about just making things easier as a maker. We don't need to complicate things. And sometimes, you know, we really get in our heads about stuff. And I'm certainly not mocking or making fun of anyone. I've been that guy. I've been that guy where, you know, I spend all this time like picking out the colors, and then half the colors I don't use, and then I feel that I need to use them because I got them out. And then when it's all said and done, I'm like, you can't even tell that I chose 12 colors, or, oh, I didn't even use that, or, oh my gosh, this background took me, you know, 2 hours to do. It shouldn't be that hard. So when you're done, slide that up, put the cap on, and click it close. So next let's just do the berries. I think that the red is calling me. Oh, that's the orange. Wrong brush. It is important when you go to close the brush that you slide this all the way up so it can hit both of those elements. So for reds, I am going to start with pink. So I'm going to do a little bit of kitsch, same thing. Just going to go down, add some of that color. And I'm not a masker, so I don't care if I got a little green in the pink. That's why I like to go with red, because red will kind of dominate that. But if you wanted to clean and mask and do all that, you can certainly take your stenciling to whatever level you want. And if you have those smaller detailed brushes, no doubt that those are going to be way more convenient for perfection. So you just have to do what is going to work for you. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, slide that up. And let's do a little bit of brown. So a little vintage photo, little gathered twigs. We'll slide this up and we'll do the pine cones. A little walnut stain too. There we go. But you can see that having your inks in this little tin holder keeps them certainly stable. And you can use them, and nothing's going on. I wouldn't leave these like this for hours, but it's certainly not going to hurt them to work with it. So once you think you're done, just kind of give it a flip. Not bad. If you needed to go back and do more, go ahead. You can do what you need. And then it's certainly easy to cap these up, because the lids are right there and you just snappity snap. And so having like an empty palette tin is what I guess I would call it, because I have my tins filled. I just have an empty tin as a palette. So I think that makes it pretty easy. Okay. So next what we want to do is we're going to want to clean this off, and you have some options. Okay, you can remove this stencil and clean it, or you can leave it there. When I clean it, I'm just going to work around the color for a couple reasons. One, it's going to clean the stencil, but two, I'm able to push any excess color into that area. So I almost treat my cloth like a tool, but I don't wipe the whole thing top to bottom because I don't want to get red in my green and green in the brown, and you know, I still want to kind of keep it, but this will also just ensure that any excess ink might fill in the blanks. So now I can just go in with the green, kind of go around. But if you wanted to lift this off and clean it, you absolutely could. Okay, nothing wrong with that, but we know it's in place. So next up, we're going to take our sparkle paste and a palette knife. Pick some of this up. So this stuff is like yogurt. That's what I would say. That's its viscosity. It's, you know, it's definitely pretty wet. And all we want to do is take this and place it down over the stencil. Because this has glitter particles, I like to try to just make a swipe and off you go. I don't like to go back and forth too much because I feel that, you know, if you, let's just say you use like a squeegee and you go back and forth over it, I just kind of feel that it changes how the glitter lays where it needs to lay. So once that's done, this stuff, see, that's pretty contaminated, so I'm just going to wipe it off. If it wasn't contaminated, I suppose you can put it back in the jar, but there's, see, it's kind of sludgy brown. That's the only downside to doing it this way. I'm going to use the end of the palette knife for the dismount. I'm just going to pick this up, give this just a little bit of a bend, and that's where this lifts off. This is going to go into the water. I just have a tray of water off camera. I just put it right in the water and let it sit. All of those water-based mediums will come off. This is what we have, and this is going to dry translucent and sparkly. So we're going to let it dry. Drying time on this, I'm going to say, I don't know, it's going to be in part 2. We'll talk about that in part 2. We'll show it when it's dry. But I'm going to say maybe a half an hour. Really, drying times vary so much depending on weather, temperature, all of that. Here I'm just cleaning the ink and the paste and everything off of that mat. There we go. Done. So drying time is when it's dry. It's dry. There we go. Okay. So that we're going to let it dry and do its thing. And I'll show you real quick how to do this, because it's really easy. I talked about it, but I did go back and look and I didn't actually show it. So I'll show it. What I learned about this is that there is a red distress ink that doesn't like sparkle paste, and that would be, I'm going to put the lid on, Lumberjack Plaid. Lumberjack Plaid and sparkle paste, for whatever reason, it becomes a strange orange, but all the other reds hold up really well. I don't know why that is. Probably it's what makes Lumberjack Plaid so magical as a red, but I would do this candy cane. You could do it with greens or anything else. So let me see what do I have here. I've got some festive berries, and I'll probably do a little bit of, let's do a little bit of candied apple as well. Why not? Or, oh gosh, it's hard to say. Whew. Okay. I'm just going to pop this around real quick because I'm going to just use these reds. I have to say, when I do the hoopla, it's very much like I kind of forget that I'm doing stuff live, and I tend to do all the hacks that I do when I'm working at home, which is kind of just do my thing. So these, I'll talk about it when the other one dries, and we'll just kind of do a comparison, okay? There we go. Move this off. Move this. Mario, can I hand this to you, please? Sure. Thank you. It's wet, and I just stuck the lid in. Okay, thank you. All right. So for this, it was just that I wanted to create some little peppermint stick backgrounds. And so this is about like layering stencils together. Okay, I know we talk about layering stencils in today's world, which is, you know, many different steps of building color. These are called layering stencils because it was about adding a layer. But the point is, you can stack stencils together to get double prints if you want. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to take these two stencils. This is a new one. It's 172. And this is number 95, which is kind of a candy stripe. And we're going to make these little peppermint sticks simultaneously. So all we want to do is just take these stencils. We'll take a bit of tape, and we're going to make these two one stencil. Okay, just a little bit of tape on the side. Now, if your tape is too wide, like mine, you can trim it or just don't go there. So I just won't go there. There we go. Okay, good enough. Keep in mind that this top stencil, I refer to these as like a banjo stencil. This has like, because it's so open, you have to be careful how you ink. You have to ink in the direction of this stencil. You can't ink this way because you'll play the banjo, okay? So this is now one stencil. So for inking, it's really going to be up to you how you want to utilize your space or your colors. You could do a lot of different colors. You can, I'm just going to stick with red. But if you wanted to change out your colors because you want this row to be red and green, you can. You could do as many different ones as you want. So let's stick this there, and let's just take a piece of paper just to show you. This is actually, it's just a quick, no nonsense demo. Okay, next up we're going to take our brush, grab a red one over here, and we're going to just do our candy stripes. We don't need to do this, the white part, unless you wanted this to be, say, maybe you're going to do Halloween, you wanted orange and black, right? Or you were going to do red and green. You would have to do a base layer of a color, but because we're just doing red and white, we're not going to do a base layer, okay? So next, we'll take this. Thanks for the comments, guys. I'm glad you like the hoopla. The hooplas are really just, it is my opportunity to just have fun and not necessarily care about the finish anything because it doesn't matter. Okay, so you can see when I'm inking, I'm following the direction of the banjo stencil. And I'm still even kind of stabilizing those strips, if you will, because they want to move, they want to jump, and it's okay. I like the fact, I'll show you mine, that it is a little blurry, a little distorted, but I like that. Maybe because I'm blurry and distorted, I don't know. But I'm a huge fan of working with this kind of brush just because, I don't know, and I don't want to, well, I'm not going to say it. Now I'm going to say it because it's in my head. I don't like to diss any other product. Everybody, I talked about this when we did the trimmer earlier this week. Everybody has a different tool preference, right? And I know that those ink brushes, those soft cosmetic brushes, people love them. And there's a bazillion brands that do them. And if they work for you, you do you. You have to just embrace that. Ranger asked me when those first became like all the rage. They're like, you know, you need to do ink brushes. And I'm like, I tried them. I'm not good with them. To me, maybe the syntheticness of those bristles, when I put ink down, like when I dip in the ink pad and you go to the surface, it really leaves a lot of ink and you have to almost ink it up and dab it off, and I'm just not that guy. And so I've always loved these, but see, some people hate them because they are a natural bristle. It's big, but it's domed and it holds ink different. So people ask all the time, like, why do you use that? You know, why don't you use other brushes? Other brushes probably would do better for detail and everything else, but for how I use ink, this is my jam. It is convenient, and I love the fact that I can always cap them. But really, you need to do what's going to work for you. Any brush or any tool, as long as you're comfortable with it, is what's going to make you successful. Okay, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to wipe the ink, but we're going to try to go in the direction of that top stencil first. I'm going to take these apart, so don't worry about that. I just wanted to get as much of that excess ink that I could, and that's what we have. Right now we have just some candy cane inked pieces. You see that? That could be done. That looks fun. That looks cool. But we're going to sparkle them. Okay? So what we're going to do is, yeah, a brush is definitely the only way to go to get layers. If you do a lot of inking, like a blending tool, I don't ink through stencils with a foam blending tool, hardly at all. It's just because, you know, it's too big. It doesn't really work. Okay. So for this, I'm going to clean the stencil. So that one's going to go in the water. That's going to be the candy cane one. This one I just need to clean. So cleaning, it's going to be super easy. Just take a paper towel. You can really use whatever you want to clean. A little bit of water. I don't know if that's even in frame. Yeah, it's in frame enough. A little water over the top. Another paper towel. And that just cleans off the excess and gets it dry. Because I want this clean and dry. So there we go. And these we'll just reuse until we can't. Okay. So then what we're going to do is we're going to place the stencil back down. This one's pretty it's pretty easy to figure out. One, visually you kind of know, where something was, and yeah, if not, oh well, it is what it is. Oh, there's my little masking tape. I'm like, that doesn't line up. That was a little bit of tape. Okay, so once this is down to the nearest ish, I'll say that that's good. Put my tape, sparkle, and off we go. So we're just going to pick up some sparkle paste and apply right through it. So this is what's going to essentially like outline the candy sticks, if you will, the candy canes. But I like this because I thought, I think this would even be fun. You mask off a row and you do like birthday candles on a card. I think that'd be really fun. Or depending on their birthday, you may need to use the whole stencil.
Here, quiet.
Yeah, that wasn't towards you, Mario. Okay, so once we're done with that, so this is almost, I'm going to say at half. So this is like to press and seal stage for my paste. To me, once they get like half, that's what I do because I do use mine a lot. I'm just going to clean this off just because I like to just use my palette knife to pick up the stencil. And there we have it. This is going to go in the water. There we go. And this will dry with the other one. So you can see that outline, that detail, that's going to give us dimension and shine, but it's really going to pop the colors when it comes back. So same idea. So that was candy sticks, but really you can do anything. You could have hearts and put a plaid stencil on top, and you could have a plaid heart. So as long as the stencil on the bottom is a big opening, you can really combine a lot of different stencils. You could take something like this, could still be your bottom stencil, but then you would want to make sure that whatever's on the top needs to be small enough. Or this is also a good bottom stencil, because see how big it is? But then maybe you want dots on dots. So see how that would look? That's really cool. So you could layer both of those, and you're just going to, when you're doing your inking, you could actually ink either way. You could ink this way, or you could ink this way. It doesn't really matter because it's the end result's going to be the same. But it is fun to kind of mix and match your stencils with patterns to achieve different effects. But like I said, we're going to let those dry, and then we'll come back to the sparkly bits in part 2. So a lot of inspiration. I think, seeing all of the different elements for part 1, because we're going to wrap up part 1, because I got a lot of, the part 1 was the easy one. Part 2 is like, buckle up, Buttercup, because there's a lot of stuff. But just to remind you of all the different things that, I'm grabbing a bunch of stuff over here. Ooh, our snowballs are almost dry. I see those. But sparkle, snow, snowballs, fun. Icicles, fun. Trees, oh my gosh, the trees are just magic.
Perfect.
Our glittery little fellows. Look at that. That's good. Look, see, I knew I'm going to put stuff in the shot.
Filling the whole thing up.
Well, I'm not going to fill the whole thing up, but you always have to make room for the muffin tin, because I think that's good. We got our little baubles in there, and just because we can, let's have a little station wagon drive through it.
Space, you can put something.
Well,
There you go.
there we have it.